Welcome to another deadline stream ahead of blank/double gaming 25. Taking a -8 here, and I don't like it at all, but it is what it is. I was very conflicted about my transfer plans. Those I discussed in my team selection video. I was priced out of overnight, and I just didn't really feel like making that -4 hit in the end. And that's why I even said in that video, I had so many different avenues, and I wasn't really settled on one. And look, anything can happen between now and the deadline. I still could even make further transfers or use the free hit, but I think this is very likely to be my final team. The captaincy is the last thing I need to decide on between Saka and Salah, although Odegaard is always a contender as well, as I've mentioned all week. But let's get straight into your questions and comments. It's good to see so many of you here already, so thank you very much to everyone. Welcome Alejandro, Dylan, hello. Welcome to everyone else. That's inside joke, by the way. Best Aston Villa defender? Probably Mings. It's between him and Luca Dean. I probably would go for Mings. And of course, Cash coming back could be a bit impressive. He got a nice assist against Arsenal. But probably Tyrone Mings is the safest option. Welcome, Steve. Good to see you. And big up Jamaica as well. Buenas tardes, Dylan. Tengo confianza. Saka capitán. Yo también, pero siempre con Arsenal tengo dudas. Pero ojalá que vaya bien. Welcome, Poke me, or maybe I shouldn't say that. Would you do one of or both Lewis to Trent and Nonto to Darwin, each for a -4? I think I'd do both. I think it's worthwhile. And long term, you probably would want that front three structure. Maybe a Watkins/Tony could come in for Darwin Núñez eventually. So yeah, ultimately, I would do a -4 for each, especially Lewis to Trent. That's a huge transfer, a huge upgrade as well. Welcome, Joe. Good to see you. Would you do short to a 5.6 defender or less for a -8? If yes, who? Let's see. Or would you just stick with 10 players? Current defense is White, Tarkowski, and Akanji. Yeah, good thing I read the rest of your message, because I was going to say Tarkowski. Really, there's not many defenders that appeal to me under 5.6 million. I was looking at Joe Gomez, but he's a big injury doubt heading into Game Week 25 now, at 50% chance of playing. And the other one would be Kilman. But even then, is it worth a hit? Not really. If you've got you've got 10 players, I think that's fine. I'd stick with the 10 players you have, mate. Full team is Kepa, White, Tarkowski, Akanji, Salah, Saka, Andreas, Odegaard, Haaland, Darwin, Tony. That looks pretty solid. Only doubts would possibly be Akanji. Does he start? But the rest should start, get some points for you, and you've got most of the key players at your disposal, like Odegaard, Saka, and Salah. So all looks good there. And thank you, Steve, for tuning in and waiting for so long as well. Singh, welcome. Kane to Núñez for a -4. I'll be honest, the only reason I did it was to fund a move to Salah and Robertson in the defence. In isolation, would I do it -4 hit? Probably not. I think Kane over the next 4 game weeks outscores Núñez. In this game week, yeah, Núñez could get the edge, of course, but I don't see a huge difference. And I was very reluctant. That was the biggest kind of gripe I had with my transfers. So unless you have to do it to fund Salah or Trent or Robertson, I wouldn't do it. Welcome, Sidindra. Good to see you. Manish says my free hit team: Pickford, Tarkowski, Trent, Cody, Salah, Saka captain, Odegaard, Grealish, Haaland, Darwin, and Nketiah. I'm seeing a bit more love for Grealish, and he has been playing well recently, to be fair to him. So I do like that team. Having said that, a trip up in Everton defensively, I think that's a bit too much. If you are backing that clean sheet against Aston Villa, then fair enough. But I'm not a big fan of that triple up. I think a double's already kind of on the edge. A triple might be a step too far, but then again, it's your team. It's not a bad option, and if you're backing it, then you have to back your own gut there. And the rest looks pretty solid, apart from Grealish, in my opinion. I could be wrong about that, but still, really solid across the board. Welcome, Alex. Would you do a Kanji to Tarkowski from -4? Yes, I probably would. I'm not a huge fan of Everton assets, even if they don't have a blank in 28 and all of this jazz, but it's still a worthwhile hit. I'm not even sure if Akanji starts in 25. Laporte and Stones are out. Yeah, that's fair enough. That is a good point. And Laporte, of course, he would be one of the biggest risks to Akanji, even though they obviously play on different sides of that defence. But yeah, I still think I'd do it for a -4 hit, but I can understand your reservations. If you are backing Akanji to start, then I'd probably just keep him for another week at least. Welcome, Soldier Boy. Good to see you. Connor Frank says, I've gone early to get Robertson in, but I'm not confident I'll be starting after Klopp's press conference. Yeah, that is a good point. He was basically talking about rotation, especially in the front three. But look, you just don't know. I think he'll start both games in 25. Do I like Liverpool defenders beyond this period? Not really, even with some good fixtures coming up. So it's always going to be a concern. Welcome, Rania. Arda says, will Lewis start? Tough to say. I think he will, but then again, I said this in Game Week 24. It didn't happen, so it's difficult to judge with Pep Guardiola, but I think Lewis will get a start in the Premier League. I don't see it happening in the Champions League. Best defenders on a wild card. You can check out my best wild card team video. The likes of Trent, Zinchenko, Tarkowski, Kilman all feature, and also someone like Shaw or Trippier. But some of you may not be able to afford that structure that I went for, and that's why I discussed in that video. You can always maybe downgrade Trent and just go for a cheaper defender. But those are the 4 or 5 that I would ultimately go for on a wild card, and I'm not a huge fan of them. You know, beyond Game Week 25 as well, it's kind of a difficult balance to strike as well, but you also cover Game Week like 28, which is a blank, and doubles at 29 as well. Welcome Way saying Trippier plus Tony to Tarkowski and Darwin for a -4 hit. Is it worth it? Yes, it is worth it. I think you make a profit, of course, this week, and I think it could even pay dividends in the next 1 or 2 weeks, you could say. But you'd ultimately want Tony back in for Game Week 27, and also arguably Trippier as well. So if you can get them back in easily in Game Week 27, I would do it for a -4 hit. How good of an option is Cunha really? In my opinion, not that good. Simply put, I don't think he's that good. And if you look at Wolves' assets in general, I know Cunha joined very recently, but the highest scoring forward for Wolves has 12 points, and that's Diego Costa. It's just not good enough. Yeah, I've made my transfers already. I'm not a huge fan of them, as I've said before, but I do think it pays off this week, and the plan is to ultimately get the likes of Kane back in around Game Week 27 potentially. But then again, my paths and my transfer plans could deviate a little bit and change by the time we get to that stage. So I've got an open-minded plan, you know, different avenues that I could go to, but I'm not a big fan of selling Kane for a hit, I have to say. Kane to Darwin for a -8. I did something similar, and the only reason was to get Salah and Trent in, or in my case, it would be Robertson. So would I do Kane to Darwin for a hit? Only if it funds other moves like Salah. Otherwise, no, it's not worth it. Do you think Mahrez will start? I think so. I think he starts. But it's always going to be a concern. Even if he starts in 25, will he start in 26 and 27? I'm not so sure. And I think Salah in for a hit for Mahrez is worth it ultimately as a result. Saka or Salah captain? I'm currently going for Saka, and I have gone for it all week, but I'm going to show you some stats comparisons which might maybe point you towards Salah instead. Over the course of the season, the Egyptian is better in terms of all the underlying numbers, but in recent weeks, especially you could say since the World Cup, Saka has had the edge in my opinion. I have Ake, should I keep or sell? I'd probably keep, unless you're selling him to a Trent or Robertson. If you're not doing that, then I'd be quite happy to keep him. The only other defender I'd consider getting in for Ake would be Tarkowski. Any chance of Rico Lewis? Yeah, I think there is a chance of him playing. Am I completely convinced though? No. Trent and Nketiah or White and Nunez, Salah or Saka captain? I've currently gone for Saka captain, but it's really close. And as for the other question, it is a difficult one, but I'd go for Trent and Nketiah. Just bear in mind that Jesus is developing really nicely. He could come back very soon. So Nketiah isn't a season keeper by any stretch of the imagination. I've already taken a -8 hit, Mohammed, so that is pretty much it. Just to recap for any of you that are joining in right now, I made 4 transfers. I had 2 free transfers and I went overboard. And I brought in Robertson, Tarkowski, Salah and Darwin Nunez for Harry Kane, Riyad Mahrez, and the other 2 were Luke Shaw and, was it Botman? No, not Botman. I've almost lost count. And Cucurella. He was the forgotten man. So yeah, -8 hit. I basically got rid of 3 players who are playing this week, although Cucurella might not even start. And I got rid of 1 blanker and I brought in 4 double game weekers. Not a huge fan of it, but ultimately I wanted to get... Yeah, let me know if there was any lag there. I think we've had the lagging problems once again, unfortunately. Even though we've got a new setup and we had no issues whatsoever the last 4 or 5 streams, but unfortunately it looks like it has come back. So let me know if I did freeze there. Unfortunately not much I can do. What else do we have? Welcome Jay, thank you very much for tuning in. When are you free hitting wildcarding? My current plan is to wildcard around Game Week 27 and potentially free hit in either 28 or 29. That isn't set in stone though. Darwin in for Tony? Yeah, I think that's a good transfer as long as you can get Tony back in around Game Week 27. Will Arsenal win by VAR? No, I don't think so. What else do we have? Hi, Irish BBB, good to see you. Have a fairly template team stuck between a -8 for White, Bruno Mitrovic to Ming, Sak and Darwin, or Shaw, Bruno Mitrovic to Robertson, McNeil, Darwin. Don't really fancy Liverpool defender. I don't blame you at all for that. I think the fixtures in 25 are very good, and from that perspective, I would like a Robertson or Trent, but beyond that, not so much. I'd probably lean towards the first set of transfers, so Ming, Sak and Darwin in for a -8 hit there, Irish BBB. Hopefully you got that. What else do we have? Is a -12 too much? In my opinion, yes. Even a -8 for me is probably too much as well. But look, it's all team dependent. And if you're getting rid of blankers and you're taking hits, you are going to make up those points this week. There's no doubt about it. So, yes, the -12 might seem excessive, but then if you're getting rid of a Luke Shaw who doesn't play, Ivan Toney, and you're bringing in Salah and people like that, then ultimately it is worth it. But I would be a bit careful. Salah triple captain. Yeah, if I start the triple captain, I would heavily consider using it on Salah or Saka this week, so I do like it. Robbo or Trent, Salah or Nunez. I do prefer Trent, but I couldn't afford it. That's why I went for Robertson. And as for Salah or Nunez, definitely Salah. This season, Rashford or Kvaratskhelia from Napoli. Probably Kvaratskhelia. I think he's been more consistent since the beginning, but since the World Cup, it's definitely Rashford at the moment. But I just think Kvaratskhelia is a bit more to his game, in my opinion. Triple captain Saka. Yeah, I think it's worth the shot, ultimately. And by the way, let me know if I do lag again. I do apologize for that. Thank you, Singh, for letting me know. And Jeff. Thoughts on Mikalenko? I said this all week. You don't necessarily need to go for Tarkowski. You could go for Mikalenko or Connor Cody as well. The main reason I went for Tarkowski is because he's cheaper, has more attacking threat from set pieces, and I think that under Sean Dyche, they're really targeting Tarkowski, and he has a good chance of bonus points and also some returns as a result, attacking returns, I mean. So, yeah, I do like Tarkowski the most. Mikalenko is also fine, though. Is he my favourite Everton defender? Not necessarily. Is Ake and Mahrez playing? I think Mahrez does. With Ake, I'm not so sure this week, but look, you could arguably say it's the other way around. With Pep, you just never know. That's the moral of the story. If I had to guess, I think both of them start, and I'm more convinced about Mahrez, despite him playing a lot against Leipzig the other day, which might have put some doubts in Mahrez' owner's mind. De Bruyne to Gakpo, Ake to Trent for a -4. Is it good option? Yes, I think it is a good option. I'm not a huge fan of Gakpo, but that -4 hit is worthwhile, in my opinion. Kane, KDB, and Shaw to Darwin, Salah, and Trent for a -4. Yep, I would ultimately go for it. I'm not a huge fan of getting rid of KDB and Kane for a hit, but you are getting rid of Shaw as well. You're getting double Gameweek players, and I think you will... Well, that hit just pays dividends, quite frankly. So yes, I'd take the hit and I'd go for it. You use the wild card? No, I haven't used the wild card. If I did, I probably would have an 11, I think. And I made the best wild card team video. It was released yesterday, I think. So no, I haven't used the wild card yet. I'm looking to use it around Gameweek 27 potentially. Martinelli to Saka for a -4. I think it's worth it. Martinelli might not even start, and he might actually have a role now for the next few weeks where he comes off the bench and makes an impact like he did against Villa. De Bruyne to Salah. I think it's very simple. I'd do it. Alternatives for goalkeeper. Well, for this week, I like Pickford, but long-term, my favourite goalkeepers are Kepa and Raya. And if you do go for Raya, he blanks, of course, but you can easily start Ward or Forster. And I think Forster has a decent chance of a clean sheet this week. Thank you for the super chat, Amir. I always appreciate it. I think you've sent quite a few super chats, so I do appreciate it. Let's go. I also went for the -8, KDB to Salah, Bruno to Saka, Shaw to Trent, and White to Tarkowski. I think that's a good set of transfers, of course. I understand why he went for White to Tarkowski to get that Saka move in place as well. And look, all those transfers look worthwhile. I think it will pay off for you. I'm not a huge fan of the -8, but I think in our cases, it will work out, at least for this week. The problem is Game Weeks 26 and 27, and that's where the chip strategy will also play a part. Good question, KDB news. I think Pep Guardiola said today that he's going to be training, so he's obviously in contention to start against Bournemouth, and I think he will. So KDB is back. He's going to be training today, and I wouldn't have any concerns about him from that perspective, but I would still sell him to Salah if he can. Would you play Bueno or Andreas? Good question, because obviously Bueno has the double, but might not even start both games. I think I would go for Bueno, just because of the double. You never know, he might reclaim that spot, and before the last 2 weeks, he was quite nailed on under Lopetegui. Welcome, Coop C. Coop. Can you tell me which team's guaranteed to play in blank Gameweek 28? Great question. Let me just bring it up. I'm going to read them out to you now, so hopefully you're here. And hopefully I don't lag whilst I say this. So the teams that will definitely play in Gameweek 28 include Arsenal, who face Crystal Palace, Aston Villa and Bournemouth, Chelsea, Everton, Nottingham Forest and Newcastle. So those 8 teams will definitely play in Gameweek 28, and that's why throughout the week I've been talking about this. I'd rather sell Shaw, who's likely to blank in 28 and obviously blanks now, and keep Trippier, who is going to go down in price, it looks like today, but he definitely plays in 28 and has some good fixtures until Gameweek 30, 31. So hopefully you caught that, and I also can talk about Gameweek 32 briefly, although that obviously we have less information regarding that Gameweek at the moment. With Gomez at 50% chance of playing, is Matip nailed for the double? Good question. I think Matip is nailed on to start at least one game, and I personally think Matip starts both now. And Gomez was a bit susceptible in recent games, especially in the Real Madrid match. I know he's a bit unlucky with the deflected goal and all of that, but yeah, a lot of Liverpool fans are calling for him to be dropped, and they're quite happy about this news actually. For a hit, Bruno to Gakpo or Tony to Darwin? That's a good question. I'd rather do Bruno to Gakpo because Tony blanks, or should I say doubles in 27, and I think Tony is a worthwhile keep if you can. So yeah, I do Bruno to Gakpo. And also, let's not forget that United are likely to blank in Game Week 28 as well. Bench 1, Rico Lewis or Andreas? Good question, because if Rico Lewis starts, I think he has a good chance of a clean sheet, but I'd probably start Rico Lewis. Trent or Robertson? I prefer Trent. It's a close call, though. They both have the exact same number of points this season. Yeah, I think so. I think De Bruyne starts. Thank you, Lipuk. I appreciate that. As always, a long-time viewer of the channel. Bueno to a defender under 5.5 million defender for a -4 hit. If yes, which defender? Already have Tarkowski. Really, the only defender I'd go for is Kilman. I would have said Gomez, but with his injury doubt, he's at 50% chance of playing, and I don't think he starts now in the double. I probably would say Kilman if you had to pick one. Tarkowski or Coleman? They're both quite similar for bonus points, and Coleman was the hero in the last Premier League game. It's quite a close call, and Coleman's probably a bit of an underrated asset, lower ownership, which I do like, but I would go for Tarkowski. I think he's got the bigger attacking threat in general, and under Sean Dyche, they're really targeting Tarkowski with the set pieces, whether it's corners or just set pieces like free kicks. Double Arsenal defense, White plus Zinchenko, or White and Tarkowski. I'd rather go for a mixture and go for White and Tarkowski. And obviously the benefit of Arsenal and Everton players is that they don't blank in 28 as well. So yeah, I'd go for the mixture and go for White and Tarkowski. The way Arsenal have been defending recently doesn't fill me with confidence. I definitely wouldn't want a double up there. And you're also blocking a potential Odegaard or Saka double up. Start Kepa or Ward. It's a close one. I don't really expect a clean sheet for either team, but I think the most likely would be a Chelsea clean sheet this week. Welcome, Mutalib, from school. But I love your vid. What do you think about Odegaard captain? Oh, for a second, I thought you said you were from my school, and that kind of caught me off guard. But I appreciate you tuning in from school, and good luck with your studies. I actually like it. Odegaard's probably my third favourite option in terms of the double Gameweek players and also just the captaincy options this week. I do prefer Saka and Salah, but Odegaard will be maybe a bit overlooked, and he is better for bonus points than Saka this season, so it's not a bad shout at all. And he also scored home and away against Everton last season, so it's definitely a good pick. Free hit, yes or no? I don't mind the free hit this week. You know, it's a mixture of blanks and doubles, and if you're in a situation where you want to get 4 or 5 players and you can't get to them without taking massive hits, and you also might not want these players beyond Game Week 25, then yes, it's worth taking a free hit for sure. What's your view on F1 this season? I mean, we don't know too much yet. I think pre-season is going on right now, or season testing, whatever you want to call it, today and yesterday, and Red Bull are looking really strong. Maybe Alonso could be a contender. I'd like to see that, but at the moment it does look like Red Bull are the strongest car once again, and Verstappen will be the title favourite again. But I think Ferrari and potentially maybe Mercedes, if not sandbagging, but I think it's going to be Red Bull again. As things stand, of course, we don't know enough, and it's a very uninformed opinion. Bench Mitrovic, Gomez or Bueno? Good question. I'd probably bench Mitrovic, and he is a doubt to start this week as well. Who should I triple captain? I'm currently favouring Saka, so it's natural that I'll recommend him as well. But honestly, either is fine. And in terms of effective ownership and all of that, I think Salah will be slightly lower, but I do prefer Saka a little bit more just because of his consistency. Bench Rashford for Dean, although he won't start. Well, yeah, I would start Dean anyway because Rashford's definitely blanking, and of course United have the Carabao Cup final on Sunday. Rashford is a doubt in general for that final. I think he'll be fine, but that obviously is irrelevant to FPL. Yeah, just start Dean, and it doesn't really matter because Dean will come off the bench anyway. I've heard Salah's a rotation risk. Thoughts? I think what you mean is that Klopp was talking about the possibility of rotation, the fact that they've got the likes of Firmino and Jota as well knocking on the door, and they have different options. But I think Salah's the most nailed-on attacker and one of the most nailed-on Liverpool players in general. The ones I'd be very concerned about are actually Gakpo and Darwin Núñez, who have been subbed off very frequently around 58 and 70 minutes recently. If you look at Darwin Núñez, in the Champions League subbed off around 64 minutes, in the Premier League 58, 70 minutes, you name it. He's always kind of subbed off a bit early since the arrival and return of Firmino and also Jota as well. Me in for sure. Makes no sense to do that this week. If anything, do it in Game Week 26 with Brentford having the double in 27 and better fixtures over the next 4 or 5. But both of them are blanking. Just as a reminder for anyone who isn't aware or might have forgotten, there are 4 teams blanking this week. That includes Brentford, Manchester United, Newcastle and Brighton. And we have 4 teams doubling in Arsenal, Everton, Wolves and Liverpool. So bear that in mind. Don't bring in Ben Mee or Ivan Toney, any Brentford players this week because they are blanking as well. Gakpo, Odegaard, Trent, who to captain? I'd probably favour Odegaard from those 3. Kane and Mings out for Darwin and Trent for a -8. Yes. I'm not a big fan of selling Kane for a hit. I've done the same thing as you with selling Kane as part of a -8. I would do it ultimately though, Mustafa. Iwobi Andreas for this week, it would be Iwobi. He's got the double, and even though I'm not a big fan of Everton midfielders, he would be the best of a bad bunch. Getting Robertson, going Robertson and Trent as a differential, I do like it. And I even said this, on a free hit, I'd probably still go for that double up in Robertson and Trent. So good luck to you. And I think it will work out in Game Week 25. Will it beyond this week? Maybe not. But I think in this week it will pay off pretty well. Updates on Mitrovic injury. I'll give you the exact quotes provided by Marco Silva, the latest updates that we've had. So bear me with a second. So the latest update on Mitrovic, which was provided yesterday, it will be difficult for him to be ready. He was on the pitch outside doing some specific work. Tomorrow we're going to make a decision. So it's all down to a late fitness test, but he's at 25% chance of starting, and Marco Silva isn't too confident of him being available to start from the get-go. And I think he'll be on the bench maximum. I don't think he starts the game personally. So that is the latest update. Let me know if you got that. And by the way, thank you to everyone who's been watching the stream. We've got over 200 viewers, which is much appreciated. If you haven't already, smash the like button, subscribe for new, all that good stuff. It really helps out the channel and it goes a long way to helping us in the algorithm. So be sure to do all of that. Thank you to everyone who sent the super chat, like Amir, and all the channel members and patrons. All the links are in the description below. And you can also sign up to some websites like Sorare, which I've also partnered up with for this stream. So be sure to check that out. I can also provide you some explanations and also maybe a little bit of an overview. It's another fantasy game, an innovative one. So be sure to let me know your thoughts on that as well. What else do we have? Are you using free hit this week? No. If I was, I would obviously have a full 11, and I'd probably have Trent Alexander-Arnold as well in the defence. There'd be a few changes for sure. I have 9 players this game week. I don't mind that. I had 9 going into this week. I now have 10 following my -8 hit. I'm not that fussed about having an 11. Otherwise, I would have not gone for this path and instead focused on having as many players as possible. Mitoma or Odegaard from Game Week 26 onwards. Probably Mitoma, because despite a likely blank in Game Week 28, he has a double in 27 and 29, whilst Arsenal have no more doubles for the time being after Game Week 25. Captain be Saka. I don't mind that at all. That's what I'm going for right now. It's between him and Salah. It's a really close call there. Mitro to Watkins and Cucurella to Tarkowski from -8, or just one of those moves. I do both because I don't think Cucurella starts, and even if he does, I think Spurs will score. And Tarkowski, I'm actually backing him for a clean sheet against Aston Villa, and he also doesn't blank in 28. He's nailed on. He's also got a bit of attacking threat, and Watkins is a really good option that covers every single game week you can think of. So would I do it? Yes. Gakpo or Darwin? Probably Darwin Núñez. But they're both rotation risks, and I think they both will be subbed off quite early. So I expect both of them to start both games, especially Darwin Núñez, but I don't see them getting 70+ minutes, basically. Thank you. I appreciate that very much, mate. And what else do we have? Thank you, Neil, for the super chat. Much appreciated. If I don't like Salah captain, is he really worth a -8? That's a good question. I brought him in as part of a -8 hit. I'm not even captaining him right now. Is it really worth it? That's a good question. I still think it is, but I think what really boosts his appeal and also the reasoning behind taking such a big hit is if you're going to captain him. But I do understand your reasoning and you questioning that move. If you're not really backing Salah for some good returns, you know, a double-digit return, then is it worth a -8? Probably not. And you don't need to undo most of your team just to bring in one player that you're not really that confident about. And I'll be honest, a few weeks ago, I would never even have dreamt of bringing in Salah as part of a -8 hit. But his recent form in the Premier League and Champions League has convinced me that it's worth bringing him in. And I might even captain him in the end. So it's a good question you ask, but I still think it's worth a -8 hit, even if you don't captain him. Zinchenko or Gabriel? I think it's really close, but I'd go for Zinchenko right now. I think he's one of the more informed Arsenal defenders from an attacking perspective. Got an assist against Man United and also scored a great goal against Aston Villa. Now, in general, I think Gabriel scores more goals and he's also more nailed on, so to speak, less injury prone. But right now, I'd rather go for Zinchenko. He's also a bit cheaper, if I'm not mistaken. Good question. I'd go for Salah, simply because KDB has no doubles, while Salah has the double in 29 as well to think about. But then again, in Game Week 28, I'd say Liverpool are more likely to have a fixture, but it all depends on how Fulham do in the FA Cup as well. So ultimately, I'd rather have Salah over the next few weeks, and also he's more nailed on than Kevin De Bruyne. Thank you very much, by the way, to Jamie. Wow, thank you very much. My first super chat. Thank you very much, Jamie, a good friend of mine. Cucurella for Dallo, and also United to win on Sunday. Unfortunately, yeah, I think United win on Sunday, and Cucurella for Dallo. Well, not this week, mate, because Dallo is obviously blanking, and I wouldn't be bringing Cucurella in this week, regardless if that's what you mean. So if you are looking to bring in a defender, I'd probably go for a Liverpool one like Trent or Robertson. And let's not even forget, you've also got Tarkowski to bring in this week. So those are the defenders I'd go for if you're looking to bring one in. And as for United, yeah, unfortunately, I think you win the Carabao Cup final against Newcastle on Sunday. So thank you, Jamie, good friend of mine. And thank you, Robin, for the super chat as well. Went for Real to get rid of White to bring Saka. That's fair enough. I think that makes sense. I'm not a huge fan of, taking massive hits and kind of undoing team structures, but I've done it myself. And do I think it's worth getting rid of White to get in Saka? Definitely, absolutely. So I think those transfers are good. And Emerson Real is kind of an interesting pick. I think that's what you meant. Yeah. Obviously, Pedro Porro is the new signing, the big signing for Spurs. And you'd still expect him to be the nailed-on right wing-back eventually. But with his form, Emerson Real should start the next few games. And it would be quite harsh for him to drop to the bench once again. Will De Bruyne play? I think so. I think he starts the game, actually. Tony to Darwin -4 or Rashford to Gakpo -4 to get 11 men. That is a good question. I'd rather keep... This is the tricky one because I'd obviously rather keep Rashford than Tony, but at the same time, Rashford blanks now and he blanks in 28 and he doesn't have a double in 27, whilst Tony does. So it's a really tricky one, but I'd probably still go for Tony to Darwin for a -4, simply because I also prefer Darwin over Gakpo, and you can always bring Tony back in by the time we get to 27. And you've also got the yellow card risk. Tony is 2 yellow cards away from suspension. He could easily get that in Game Week 26 and also in the first game of 27, which would rule him out for the second game for that double. But would you want it to reverse soon, costing 8 points overall? Yeah, I do get your conundrum there, Marco, but I'd still probably do, if you were to make a transfer, it'd be Tony to Darwin. I'd be quite happy to stick with 10 men though, Marco. I think that'd be the best scenario for you, the best solution. Thank you, Mutalib, thank you very much, and thank you, John. Bring in Mahrez or Grealish. I still prefer Mahrez from an FPL perspective. I think in recent weeks, Grealish has been City's best attacker, arguably. And I'm not even talking about goals and assists, just his overall play. But I'd still rather bring in Mahrez, should I say. They're both rotation risks, though. I'd say Grealish is maybe a bit more nailed on. Remove Mitrovic from -8 to anyone. Darwin Núñez and Watkins would be at the top of my agenda this week. And after Game Week 25, it would be Tony. And I'd still like Harry Kane a lot. I think he's one of the best options in the game. I'm very apprehensive about getting rid of him for a -8, but that's what I've done. So yeah, this week it'd be Darwin Núñez or Watkins. De Bruyne to Salah -4, it's worth it. Even if De Bruyne starts, and of course he can do well against Bournemouth, Salah with that double, it's worthwhile. And he also has a double in 29 and could have a fixture in 28 as well. Aka's been so annoying to own. Is it worth a -4 for Robertson? Yes. I'm not a huge fan of Liverpool defensively, but is it worth a -4? Yeah. And Robertson's actually been scoring more points since Game Week 14 than Trent, and he could be a bit underrated this week. Iwobi or McNeil for this game week, hard to choose. It is, because they're both pretty poor in my opinion, but I'd rather go for Iwobi. I'm trying my very best to go through all the questions, but it is a bit difficult. Obviously, I appreciate those of you being patient. I'm going to go through them, so don't worry. It just might take a bit of time. Is Salah essential to Sadindra? No, he's not essential, but is he one of the best midfielders over the next 4 or 5 game weeks? In my opinion, yes, especially considering his recent form. The only way I can get to him is by selling KDB to Salah for a -8 or just take a -4 and cover Liverpool with Núñez. Look, it's a tricky one, but would I do KDB to Salah for a hit? Yeah, I probably would. Even this week with Kevin De Bruyne, I think he'll start, and he's playing against Bournemouth of all teams. And punt on Iwobi or McNeil, if I had to pick one, it would be Iwobi. Would I do it? Probably not. I'd rather go for Everton defenders if you wanted to take a punt. Do you keep Kane if you still have him, Dylan? Oh yeah, look, I had Kane. I sold him, and the only reason why was to fund Salah and Robertson, and also to get those extra double gimmick players. That's really the only reason why I'd done it. And I'm still actually very conflicted in my mind, and I think it might have been the wrong decision because Kane is so consistent. I wouldn't be surprised if he did really well against Chelsea. He got 8 points the last time they met, and he also did well against Wolves. He scored in the reverse fixture. Remember, that's who Spurs play in 26. So I also agree with you. I'd rather have Kane than Darwin, definitely, and I wouldn't do it for a -4 hit in general, but I had to do it to find other moves, and unfortunately, that's what I've done. Kane, Shaw, Patterson for Nunez, Tarkowski, Trent for a -8. Yes, ultimately, that's a good set of transfers. I would do it. Wei Seng puts his team. So many problems here. What would you do with my team? 1 million in the bank. I mean, it's a good team. I like some of those picks like Chilwell. I think he could become a really good option in a few weeks' time. Not expecting anything this week, so I can understand your frustrations and concerns. So what would I do this week with one free transfer? I can see the conundrum you have. You've got Martinelli as well. Now, Wei Seng, if you still have the free hit, I would consider using it. I think that could be a good opportunity to use it. And I think you could still set yourself up pretty well in the weeks to come, especially if you wildcard around Game Week 27. It's not to say your team's bad, because it definitely isn't. You have some great players in there. But when you're looking at how to tackle Game Week 25, you know, without taking a -4, -8 to really set yourself up really well for Game Week 25, then maybe a free hit could be the solution for you. But if you were to just stick with normal transfers and stuff, then what would I do? That's a good one. Probably I'd have to downgrade the likes of Trippier and Shaw. So they would be the sacrificial lamb, so to speak. And what you could do, for example, is Shaw to Tarkowski and then maybe Trippier up to Robertson. I think you could do that. If not, even Trent, if you can have the funds there available. And that would be pretty fine for Game Week 25. Of course, you would still miss some key players like Odegaard and Salah, but you'd still be in a good position, I think. So that's what I would do. Probably get in maybe double Liverpool defence, or getting one Liverpool defender and Tarkowski in for Trippier and Shaw potentially, and stick with that. If not, maybe even free hit and go gung-ho for this double game week. Trent or Tarkowski for a -4? Definitely Trent for me, 100%. The reason why, you know, Tarkowski might be more appealing is because he's more accessible for most people, and he doesn't blank in 28, and that's confirmed. Castagna or Shaw out for Tarkowski? I'd actually rather keep Shaw if you can, Jay. Despite, obviously, the possible blank in 28, I still think that Game Week 27 fixture against Southampton's really good. And I know the other games are pretty poor for Man United, you know, against Brighton, Newcastle and Liverpool. But having said that, I'd still rather keep Shaw than Castagna. Grealish or Mahrez? Still Mahrez for me. I think Grealish has been really impressive, but from an FPL perspective, still leaves a lot to be desired. Sell Amron to Iwobi for a -8. I mean, I think it's worth a hit. As much as I don't like these Everton assets, you know, I think Iwobi does outscore and pays off that -4 hit you're taking, the additional one in for Almiron, who of course blanks. So yeah, I think it is worthwhile. Would I do it myself? I mean, as a one-week punt, yeah, fair enough, but he's not someone I'd like to have beyond Game Week 25. Bruno to Gakpo or Everton midfielder? I'd rather go to Gakpo. Dylan, should I take a -4 to bring in Tarkowski for Cucurella? Good question, Jeremy. Yes, I would, and I've done the same thing actually. Salah's the only Liverpool player that's essential in my opinion. Yeah, I agree. And look, Liverpool, even against Newcastle, and of course I was very surprised to see them beat Newcastle 2-0, but after Newcastle went down to 10 men, Newcastle actually created some really good chances. Of course, hindsight's a wonderful thing. I still thought, you know, very impressive for Liverpool to keep back-to-back clean sheets. And we thought that maybe they were going back to their best. They were 2-0 up against Madrid. But of course, when you face a team like that, you could always get embarrassed. So look, I agree with you. I think Salah's the closest to essential. I don't think he is essential though. Play Cucurella or Andreas? Andreas, definitely. Odegaard or Gabriel? Odegaard, especially with Arsenal's recent defensive form. Best defender for 6.5 million. Probably still Tarkowski this week. I know Van Dijk could be included in the equation and the debate, but I'd rather go for Tarkowski. I have Ake. Do I need to take a hit and get Tarkowski? You don't need to, but would I take a hit to Tarkowski? I probably would. Do you think Akanji starts? Recently, he's fallen out of favour in the Premier League. I think he does start, but I'm very apprehensive and also conflicted about that. I wouldn't be too sure. Triple captain Salah. If I still had it, I would triple captain him or Saka this week potentially, yeah. Which players are you going to buy back after this game week? Probably Harry Kane. He's the one that I'm most worried about going forwards. And another plan that I talked about in my team selection video included selling Trippier, and Shaw. And I didn't like that, especially selling Trippier. And if I did do it, I probably would have tried to get Trippier back in time for Game Week 27. So yeah, the answer would be Harry Kane. Andreas or Iwobi? Iwobi this week with a double. Play Cucurella or Andreas? We've answered that. I'd go for Andreas Pereira. Get rid of Akanji for a -8. The only defenders I'd get rid of for a hit would be to get Trent or Robertson or Tarkowski. Hi Dylan, would you triple captain Saka this week? I think I would. Either him or Salah. Gomez or Matip? Right now, I'd say Matip. If you asked me a week ago, it would have been Gomez, but with his injury and also his performance against Real Madrid, I probably would favour Matip to start both games now. Mings, Diop, I'd rather go for Mings. Should I take hits for City's Lewis and Bueno? I think so, especially if you can get to a Liverpool fullback and Tarkowski. Free hit es buen momento? No, sí, creo que sí. Una mezcla de dobles y también blanks. Así que sí, creo que es un buen momento, pero también tienes la jornada 29 con tantos dobles. Eso también puede ser un muy buen momento para usar el free hit. Así que sí, es muy difícil porque no sé tu equipo, pero cualquiera. 25 o 29 es muy bueno. Y también el 28. Cody o Dawson Kilman? Kilman would be my preference, but then again, if you are favouring Tarkowski like I am over the Wolves defenders, then you could arguably go for Cody as well over Kilman. So yeah, the way I'd rank it is probably Cody first, Kilman second, and Dawson third. I think that's the way I'd go about it. I'm going Odegaard captain over Salah, no Saka. I like that. Good luck with it. And I think Muntalib said something similar as well. Thank you, Grinja. I appreciate it. I mean, let's wait and see. I mean, I took a -8 hit after all to get that. Spurs-Chelsea prediction. Really good question. I think it'll be either a draw or a narrow Spurs win. I don't see Chelsea winning, despite them historically getting the better of Spurs. I think Spurs will win 1-0. It's either that or 1-1. I'm going to go for 1-0 and back Spurs there. Should I remove Mahrez to bring Saka or Salah for a hit? Yes, I think it's definitely worth it. I would do it. Welcome, Twisted Parky. Have 5 players in Game Week 28, 7 doubles, 8 singles for Game Week 29, 5 players for Game Week 32, thinking 3 in Game Week 28, wildcard 33, bench boost 34. Looks pretty solid. Who's in for Game Week 25 that can fit the strategy onto wildcard 33? Liverpool defense? Potentially. I think so, because if they blank in Game Week 28, you've got the free hit anyway, which you're looking to use in Game Week 28, which makes complete sense. So yeah, I think Trent and Robertson would fit the bill. Salah, of course, and anyone else. I think Tarkowski is also a decent pick anyway for the next couple of weeks. But then again, his appeal is a bit reduced because you're looking to free in 28 anyway. So yeah, I think the Liverpool players will be the main ones, and I'd say Trent, Robertson, and Salah. And you could even have that triple up at the moment, and then look to use those chips accordingly. But let me know if you've got any other plans or ideas. Let's see. Trying to spam the chat, please. What else do we have? Free hit or -8? I've gone for a -8, so I'd probably say that. It also depends on who you're bringing in, though, and taking out. But if you try to get Kane next week, you would most likely have to take it again. Yeah, I know. That's why I probably won't get Kane in 26, per se. Probably in Game Week 27 if I wildcard. Should I take a -8 for Odegaard to Saka, or should I do shorter Trent? Shorter Trent is definitely better. As much as I like Saka, it's not worth doing Odegaard to Saka, especially when you can do Shaw, who blanks, to a double game week and Trent. So that is the better move for you. Not enough budget to have Salah, I can understand. I also was in a similar position. I have Odegaard, Saka, Rashford, and Andreas. Who would you buy for the 5th midfielder selection? 8.9 million in the bank. That looks crazy. And I already have 3 Arsenal players. You don't have enough money. Yeah, I can see what you mean. Not enough budget to have Salah. I mean, this is the thing, though. I actually would like to do Andreas to Salah. I'm pretty sure, yeah, you can afford that. If I'm not mistaken, they can. Unless you've got something else planned as well. But 8.9 million in the bank, you could easily go from Andreas to Salah. And I think that's worth it. Even if you're getting rid of someone who plays this week, I think that's a good transfer. Keep Tony or Mitoma? Good question. I'd rather keep Tony at the moment, simply because, well, not even simply because, he has a chance, or a better chance, of not blanking in Game Week 28. And I think with the forwards, there's just fewer options to choose from compared to the midfield, where you still have 6, 7, 8 options that could be at your disposal. So it's a close one, but I'd rather keep Tony. And I might be wrong about that, of course. Should I bring in Gabriel, Odegaard, Salah for KDB, Martinelli, Bueno, Patterson? Yes. And you could also go for another Arsenal defender like Zinchenko. Ben White is still good, Saliba. But yeah, I ultimately would do that. Welcome, Goldhead. Yep, good luck to you as well, Goldhead. Hopefully you're well as well. Yeah, I have to be honest. Yesterday, that's when I really kind of overthought this, my transfers and stuff. And in the end, I didn't go for the -4 hit I talked about in my team selection. I went for a -8, and I'm just not a big fan of it. Nunez or Gakpo? Nunez. Any replacement for Botman? Tarkowski. Apart from him, I'd say maybe Kilman around a similar price. Not a big fan of him, though, with the fixtures. Would you do a -4 Reece James to Trent or Robertson? Yes, and my preference would be Trent, but Robertson's also fine and also a bit underrated, I think, this week. Thank you, Twisted Parky, but only have 6.2 million if I sell Shaw or 6.5 if I sell Trippier. That's why, Twisted Parky, you could sell both. Well, actually, no, that still wouldn't make sense. I mean, what you could do is sell Shaw to Tarkowski and then sell Trippier to one of those Liverpool fullbacks. That's what you could do. And yeah, I can understand your frustration or your problems because I also wouldn't want Van Dijk, and even Joe Gomez doesn't look like he's going to start. So I do agree with you there. That's why it could be worth downgrading a defender and get Tarkowski and then also bring in a Liverpool fullback. So I need to sell Shaw for Robertson. You don't need to, but I would do it in your situation, if I'm not mistaken. Do you think Trussell will start both games? I think Trussell starts one. I'm not sure if he starts both. I think Martinelli will be on the bench again against Leicester and then potentially be back in the lineup against Everton, but it's quite a tough one. The way I see it, though, Leicester might actually favour Martinelli more with the way Leicester play. They're also more vulnerable defensively, whilst Everton will sit back and attack. And I think, or sit back and defend. And I think Trossard is better to break down low blocks at the moment. So it might actually be the opposite, but I think it'll be one start for each. Shaw and Tony to Tarkowski and Darwin. Good question. Yes, I would do it. Mahrez, Kane, Mitoma to Salah, Darwin, Gakpo. Yes, I think I would do it reluctantly. I say reluctantly. It's a good set of transfers, and getting Salah in, if that's for a -4 Christian, I'd definitely do it. Welcome, Lager. Good to see you once again. Patterson to Kilman, extra -4. I don't think Patterson starts any of the games in Game Week 25. Coleman, I think he was kind of praised a lot by Sean Dyche. He was the hero in the last game against Leeds. So, yeah, I think it's worth a hit. Thank you, Marco. I think the best transfer is Tony to Darwin, though. At the moment, think I'll hold off. Double Game Week 27 plus don't commit to free Liverpool in case of blank Game Week 28. Yeah, I see what you mean. And to be honest, I'm quite open to free hitting in Game Week 28, which is why I just went gung-ho now and took a -8. But I can understand why you decided to maybe be a bit apprehensive and not go all in. I'd bench Andreas Pereira still, even though I'm not sure if Bueno starts both games, if any at all. Trent for Rico Lewis or Shaw? I'd rather sell Rico Lewis to Trent, but I can understand if you want to sell Shaw instead, because Rico Lewis might start in Game Week 25 and even keep a clean sheet. But ultimately, I'd rather have Shaw long term. And I think maybe the chip strategy for you when you're looking to use the wild card as well could play a part in what you ultimately decide. I have Tarkowski, says Twisted Parky. Fair enough. I can understand then why you're maybe a bit conflicted there. I think Aston Villa defenders could even be a decent one. I'm not a huge fan of them defensively. They've conceded 8 goals in the last 2 home games after all. Conceded 3 to City as well on their travels, but they tick a lot of boxes too. So maybe someone like Mings could be a decent acquisition for you. And I'd still keep the likes of Trippier. I think Trippier is definitely worth keeping if you can, and maybe bringing in Botman as well by the time we get to Game Week 26. But right now, yeah, it's really those Liverpool fullbacks, and if you can't get to them, then maybe Matip could be a decent short-term solution for you. No, I'm not using the free hit. I took a -8 hit. Mahrez will start? I think so. It's quite a difficult one to say, but I think he does. Mikalenko 100% nailed? I think he'll start both games in the double. Do I think he's nailed on to start every single game until Game Week 38? I'm not entirely sure, but I think he will start both games. Andreas or Bailey, considering the blank Game Week 28? Good question. It would be Bailey as a result. Salah or De Bruyne for a -8? Yeah, I think it's worth the hit. Bueno will start. I don't see him starting both. Maybe one. It's difficult to say because he was starting every single game, then suddenly he was dropped in the last 2. So difficult to ascertain that, but I think he'll start one, but not both. Shaw, Mahrez, Kane out for Tarkowski, Salah, Darwin. Yep, I'd do it, yep. Mahrez and Kane could do well this week, but still. Best City defender? Probably Ake. Ake or Ruben Diaz. Is it worth spending so much on a City defender right now? Probably not. And that's why I'd probably favour Ake a little bit more. What to do with Mitrovic? I would sell still. He's a big doubt for this week. I think I provided an update earlier. What Marco Silva said in his press conference yesterday, and I wouldn't be too convinced of him starting, and the fixtures aren't there. He's been off form, since that 15 points against Palace, very inconsistent. So, yeah, I think it's worth selling him. Start Bueno or Andreas? I would go for Bueno. Any chance Patterson gets to play? Yeah, there is a chance. I definitely don't see him starting both games, though. One start is possible, but I think he will be benched for both. Ake will start. Yes, I think so. Honestly, I can't tell you for sure. That's just a gut feeling. I could be completely off the mark. Gakpo would be my preference there, Akash. Zinchenko or Trent or Robertson? The game at 25, it'd be Trent. And I think Zinchenko will be at the bottom of that list. But long term, I think Zinchenko will be the safer, pick until game week 38 or even over the next 5-10 game weeks. But right now, who would I rather buy? It'd be Trent or Robertson, and I'd probably go for Trent. Would you do a -4 Reece James to Trent or Robertson? Yeah, I think I answered your question already, and I would go to Trent. That is my preference. I'm currently favouring Saka for the captaincy, so I'm going to say the same thing to you. I'd favour him slightly, but it's really close, and ultimately Salah is a good option. And I actually provided a list of pros and cons to someone who asked me in a YouTube comment. I might even bring it up now, just to provide you, just some list of pros and cons on the fly as well. I'm going to see if I can find that comment. Let's see if I can find it. Maybe not. Maybe I'm on the wrong video for this. But yeah, I'll try to find that comment. But there's a list of pros and cons that I provided that I think makes sense. Look, ultimately I would go for Saka, but it's a close call. All right, let's see what else we have. Yeah, the thing is with Villa, they're not keeping enough clean sheets and they're very vulnerable. They concede goals every single game, even at home. But the fact that they have the double in 29, no blank in 28, they have a fixture now, they just tick a lot of boxes and it makes it easy to navigate this period. Is Mitro definitely out? No, he's not definitely out, but he's at 25% of starting, and Marco Silva wasn't too optimistic in his press conference. You took a -8 but not captaining Salah. I might still do it, but yes, I can understand the questioning of that logic, because why take such big hits if you're not even going to captain Salah? But I still think he can score a really good amount of points, but Saka might just outscore him. It's going to be really close, I think, and there could be a huge difference and point swing, which I'm hoping isn't the case. But yeah, at the moment I'm going for Saka. Iwobi would be my preference there. Zinchenko or Tarkowski for a -4. Zinchenko would still be my defender of choice there, long term. I can make it a -12 for Kane to Nketiah also, to be fair. Yeah, I think that is not a bad transfer right now, especially if you're looking to wildcard in 27. But yeah, just getting rid of Harry Kane for a hit. I mean, the only reason I did it was to fund other moves, pure and simple, because I think he's one of the best options in the game. Mackenzie, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. Bruno to Salah, Wilson to Nonto for a -4, and then to Field 11 to Patterson, Tarkowski for another -4. In total, -8, wildcarding in 26-27. Yeah, I'm in a quite similar position there. I think that looks pretty solid. Yeah, ultimately, I would go for it. I'm not expecting big things from Nonto, but even if he just gets an assist, I think that's already enough. Salah in for Bruno's already a worthwhile hit. And that looks pretty good. Patterson to Tarkowski, I would do it, especially after what we got recently, the news, or at least Sean Dyche's press conference, Coleman's performances in the last 3 games. So yeah, I would do that and take another -4 hit and bring in Tarkowski, because I am expecting a possible clean sheet there for Everton against Villa at home. Is Salah a must-have? I don't think he's a must-have, but is he one of the best options in Gaming 25? Yes, and I'd say over the next 4 or 5 as well. Good luck to you as well, Mackenzie. I appreciate it. Hopefully those transfers pay off as well for you. Should I hold my triple captain? If I still had it, I probably would use it now on Saka or Salah, but I can understand, because I would also be a bit apprehensive about using it this week, because there might still be better opportunities later in the season with other doubles on the horizon as well. So yeah, if you want to hold it, I don't think that's a bad decision necessarily, but I think I would use it this week. Just had a look at doing White, Botman and Tony to Tarkowski, Bueno and Darwin for a -8. Really doesn't look appealing without the double game week, but I feel I'd get left behind if I don't make the changes. I get what you mean. The thing is with Bueno, is he going to start both games? That's a big question mark, and will Wolves keep a clean sheet anyway? Not so sure. To be honest though, I mean, with Botman and Tony, I'm trying to think what other moves you could make there, because even, let's see what you could do. Even just Botman to Tarkowski for free, I think could be a worthwhile transfer for you, Goldhead. I think that could be pretty decent as well. But I can understand. It is a difficult one. Isak or Norgard? Well, Isak doesn't play this week, and Norgard as well. And in terms of who would I rather have long-term, it would be Isak. Nunez and Trent in for Kane and Shaw? Yes. Wildcard this week, I'm not happy with about 7 on my team and can set up for a Game Week 29 bench boost. In that case, I would, Kieran, and you could free hit in 28 if you still have that chip on, in your back pocket. And, that might be the big concern. If you don't have the free hit, you wildcard now, are you going to be well set up for blank Game Week 28? If you are, then that's good. But also, you've got the free hit as well, maybe to navigate that game week. Yeah, I think I'd wildcard in your situation. I'm going for Saka right now, and I actually put a poll out yesterday, and Saka is slightly leading, but it's a really close call between him and Salah. Should I take a -4 for Rashford out and McNeil in? I mean, look, the points, will that pay off this week? Worst case scenario is that McNeil maybe gets, less than 60 minutes in one game and 2 points in another. Look, you're not going to lose out on too much by making that, but am I backing the McNeil assist or goal? Not necessarily. It's kind of a tough one. I'd probably rather keep Rashford, keep the value tied up in him, and have him ready for 26 and 27, where I expect him to do well. So ultimately, I'd probably keep Rashford. Patterson got a knock on the knee. Yes, and also Coleman is the first choice at the moment, and, with Patterson coming back from a long-term injury, there's no need to rush him anyway. Yep, I would do that, Patterson to Tarkovsky. Shaw, Rashford and Kane for Salah, Darwin and Trent for a -4. Yes, I would do it. I actually got rid of Mahrez instead of Rashford. I would rather keep Rashford long term, and also I wasn't able to afford that move, but I can understand why you're doing it. I would do it. Would you do a -4 Reece James to Trent Robertson? Away, so you have asked this question 3 times and I have answered it, but yeah, I would go for Trent. Darwin or Robertson? For this week, I do prefer Robertson. But then again, if you've already got Trent and you don't want to double up in Liverpool defensively, then it makes sense to go for Darwin instead. But I'd rather go for Robertson. Then Darwin back to Kane straight away because Kane hasn't really let me down. Yeah, and that's literally like one of the biggest... I've never felt so uncomfortable making, these transfers all season, really. So maybe that's a bad sign, but I can understand. Harry Kane's been one of the best options overall. What's your reasoning for Salah or Saka captain? I've currently gone for Saka just because he's been more consistent over the course of the season. Arsenal are also more reliable in this campaign, and Saka has had better underlying numbers and stats over the last 4 game weeks and since the World Cup. Although it's very close, but Saka is leading in some of these key metrics like expected goals. And now look, we might as well go through some different pages as well right now. So let's look at the fixture ticker. Arsenal, Liverpool, Villa, Brighton and Chelsea make up the top 5. So Arsenal just pretty much always seem to be on top here. Let's see if it actually pays off. In terms of the bottom kind of 5, Man City are there alongside Palace, Fulham, Man United and Newcastle. But once that blank is out of the way, the Carabao Cup final on Sunday, of course, Man United will definitely leapfrog a lot of teams there. And they might blank in 28 as well, though, and things will definitely start to change once again. But yeah, just think about that. There's so many doubles and blanks coming up. In terms of predicted points, this could help you with your captaincy plans. Salah is top. Nketiah is second, and it's a really close call there between those two. You've got Odegaard, Darwin, and Saka making up the top 5. So the algorithm is favouring Salah over Saka, and by quite some margin. And even Odegaard is ahead of his fellow teammate there, which is quite interesting to see. But I would probably put Saka in the top 2 or 3 at the very least. But I can understand why Salah is in first position. I think that makes complete sense. In terms of price rises, according to FPLstatistics.co.uk, you've got the likes of Salah, Darwin, Gakpo, Trent, Saka, all about to go up in price. If it doesn't happen today, it probably will at some point this week. And then look at this. You look at those about to go down in price. Trippier, it's just a matter of time. Same with Almiron, Bruno Fernandes, and a lot of these other assets like Rashford, these Man United and Newcastle players that are blanking, of course, this week. Even Harry Kane, it looks like he'll go down in price. Martinelli and a few others there. So yeah, makes sense based on the transfer activity. And the last thing I want to show you is the stats comparison. This could also maybe be the final nail in the coffin for you in terms of the comparison between Salah and Saka. And over the course of the season, Salah has been better in terms of these underlying numbers, shots in the box, shots overall, and also XG, expected assists. But Saka has more goal contributions, same amount of goals, more assists, one more game played to be fair, and not many penalties. I think Liverpool haven't had a penalty this season, if I'm not mistaken, and Arsenal have had 2. That obviously does play a part in this as well. But I'm currently favouring Saka. However, I do have a bit of an inkling to maybe switch the captaincy to Salah before we reach the deadline, which is in 1 hour and 5 minutes time as well. Kilman or Dawson? I'd rather go for Kilman. I think he's a bit more accessible as well and better for bonus points. But Dawson, I have to admit, is slightly better in terms of goal threat. Welcome, Mr. Iceman. Which Palace defender, if any, do you suggest Honestly, I wouldn't suggest any, but if you had to pick one, I mean, who do I go for? I mean, it's a tough one. I'm not a big fan of any of them. I have to think about this because genuinely I don't really like these options, but probably Anderson would be my favorite. But yeah, I'd very reluctantly say that. I don't really like these Palace assets, to be quite frank. I'd go for none of them, Mr. Iceman. I think you put more to your comment. They have a double soon and play in 28. That is true. That is true. But I'd actually rather go for Aston Villa defenders even, which says a lot. Worth taking a third hit to replace Lewis to Kilman? I think it is worth it. Because even if Lewis starts now, I don't think he starts in the next few weeks as well. If I sell Tony, when should I bring him back? Game week 27, when he has the double. And also, you will find out by then if he's a really big risk for a suspension. Because if he gets a yellow in 26, he's literally one yellow card away from a suspension. He could get it in the first game of 27 and then be suspended for the second game. So yeah, game week 27. Hillman or Mikalenko? Probably Mikalenko. If you've already got an Everton defender though, I would understand if you have a bit of doubts about doubling up on their defence because I wouldn't trust them that much. Robertson for Cucurella or Trent for Trippier? Robertson for Cucurella. Even though Trippier blanks and Cucurella has a chance of starting or even getting a point off the bench, I'd just rather keep Trippier because you'd want him back in 27, and Robertson could be a really overlooked and underrated option in Game Week 25, so that looks good. Welcome, Abhinav. What's going on with the blanks? What players do I get? Well, what's going on with the blanks? We've got quite a few blanks coming up in 28 and 32, but the main one to look out for is obviously right in front of us. We've got 4 teams blanking in Brighton, Brentford, Manchester United and Newcastle. The reason why is because of the Carabao Cup final played on Sunday. So Man United and Newcastle and their respective opponents scheduled for Game Week 25 will all blank. And we've got 4 teams doubling in 25, which is why a lot of people are looking to take hits or use the free hit in such a week, which makes sense. And in terms of Game Week 28, I can also go through that if you want. Let me know if you want to know the blankers or at least the confirmed teams that will have a fixture in Game Week 28. I can go through that, and we still are yet to decide or still yet to see the other fixtures to be slotted into Game Week 28 because it all depends on the FA Cup as well. Can I use my triple captain in 29? Yeah, you can. And that's why if you're not looking to use the wild card in Game Week 29 or even another chip like that, then yes, you can do so. Should I captain Trent or Salah? I think I saw that question. Or Saka. I'd go for Saka. As much as I like Liverpool defenders this week, I don't have enough confidence in them as a defensive unit to go for them over Saka, who's been very reliable this season. Iwobi would be my preference. I'm not a big fan of him, but he has been more consistent over the course of the season. Obviously, one thing you could say about McNeil is that he has experience of working under Sean Dyche at Burnley, and he could be one of the main threats from set pieces and corners and crosses to target the likes of Tarkowski, but I still prefer Iwobi. If I sell Tony, when should I bring him back? Game Week 27. I've done some fiddling, can only fit one of Salah and Nunez. I'm leaning towards Darwin as it means I can keep Mahrez and Tony. That's fair enough. I would have said Salah, but if you really want to keep Mahrez and Tony, then it makes sense and you could just go for Darwin Nunez. Thank you, Godhead. I appreciate it. I did the same thing already. Thanks, mate. Yeah, good luck to you, Car. Hopefully it works out. Bench Ake or Andreas? I'd bench Andreas. Thoughts on passing to Bueno from -4? Not really too keen because I'm not even that sure if Bueno starts both games. I'd rather go to Kilman or Dawson, Mikalenko, Tarkowski instead. Fernandez, Trippier and Tony to Salah, Tarkowski and Darwin Nunez -4 hit. Yes, man, I would do it. Who would you transfer out for Trent, Dunk or Shaw? Good question. I'd rather transfer out Shaw. Brighton have better fixtures and they have more doubles. They have a double in 27 and 29, whilst United only have one in Game Week 29. So as much as Shaw is a really good option in general, I'd rather keep Dunk right now. De Gea and Almiron to Alisson and Iwobi from -8. Not a huge fan of it. Alisson's one of the highest scoring goalkeepers this season, but 5.4 million, on a goalkeeper like Alisson, I just don't think it's worth it. And I think you can take a -8 hit and make more points by going for outfield players instead. Thank you, Abhinav. Suggest transfers. Do I take hits or free hit? I have Odegaard, Martinelli, KDB, Kane, Haaland, Greenwood, Edison, and White. I mean, that looks pretty good. You've got Edison away to Bournemouth. You haven't kept the clean sheet in a while, but this is a good opportunity for them. Ben White has a double. You've got Odegaard. I think the key players you're missing are Salah and Saka. So what you could do is KDB to Salah, and then maybe Martinelli to Saka if you have the funds, Abanov. So if you can do that, I think that's pretty self-explanatory, and that would improve your team for Game Week 25. My captain you can see on screen, it's Saka. It's between him and Salah. I'm still yet to finalize it completely, but I'm currently favoring Saka. Free hit or -12? Good question. It depends on the players you're bringing out for me to give you a concrete answer. Normally, I'd say free hit. I'm not a big fan of -12 hits, but it might be different in your situation. You could be getting rid of blankers like Tony and Shaw and bringing in double gameweekers, and therefore the -12 is probably the better option there. Haaland or Kane captain? Haaland. -4 Ake and Robertson or -8 Kilman and Trent? I'd go for Kilman and Trent simply because Kilman has the double. Ake might not even start, and not much to separate Robertson or Trent anyway. But I'm just not too sure about Ake. And to be fair, I'm not even too sure about Kilman either, but I'd probably go for the -8. Trippier to Tarkowski from -4. I'd rather get rid of another defender, like Shaw if you can, instead of Trippier. But yeah, I think it's worthwhile, of course. I expect Tarkowski to get 6 points, maybe even 7 this week. Of course, I could be wrong, but that's my opinion. Let's go back to my team, by the way, because I have been on the screen. So yeah, just for those of you asking about my captaincy, you can see it on screen. I'm currently favouring Saka, but it's between him and Mohamed Salah. Welcome, Danish. I'm doing well. What about you? Thank you very much for asking. Did you have the choice of Trent or Robertson? No, I was priced out. I literally had no funds remaining. I had the exact funds to bring in Tarkowski, Robertson, Salah, and Darwin. Maybe it's a sign, maybe not, but if I had the funds, I probably would have gone for Trent. Yeah, I think I'd favour him slightly. Thoughts? Shaw to Tarkowski, Andres to Gakpo, Kane to Darwin. I would just do Shaw to Tarkowski in your situation, mate. I'd probably keep Andreas and Kane, actually. Don't get me wrong, Darwin and Gakpo are decent options, and it could pay off this week, but if you're also looking for players for Game Weeks 26 and 27, I'd actually rather keep Andreas and Kane. Tarkowski for Lewis or McNeil for Almiron? Tarkowski for Lewis, in my opinion. Fun fact, before today's deadline going into this game week, De Bruyne had 17% bigger ownership than Salah. Now Salah has 2% bigger ownership. Yeah, I think the double for Game Week 25, that simple move from De Bruyne to Salah, played a big part in that, but I actually wasn't aware. So thank you very much for that, Mr. Iceman. Haaland against Bournemouth seems the best option for captaincy. The thing is, there is a chance, albeit small, that Haaland is benched. I think he will start, and from the single game week options, he's certainly my favourite option to captain, but Saka and Salah with a double, even Odegaard, I would favour this week. And also, Haaland most weeks, and even this week, could still be the most captain option because of so many inactive teams and people just kind of permanent captain Haaland, and this is an opportunity to go against him and to be a bit different. Free hit 29, wildcard 33, bench boost 34. Looks solid, and obviously the alternative would be maybe wildcard 27, free hit 28 or 29, and then bench boost in 29 if you use the free in 28. But then again, you might want to save one chip for the last 5 to 10 game weeks. So yeah, I think that looks pretty solid as well. I'm looking at that or what I just said as well as my concrete chip strategy. We'll do Shaw to Trent, Robertson. Oh, -4. Unsure which. Trent probably better pick, but maybe risk of one bench. Robertson helps with money later. Yeah, that is a good point. Money in the bank is always helpful. I don't know. I have a good feeling about Robertson in general anyway this week. I don't mind going for him over Trent anyway, but I still probably would go for Trent if money isn't a big issue for you right now. I would go for Haaland captain, as I said before. Which defenders to bring in? Trent, Robertson, and Tarkowski. Now, do I like Liverpool defenders long term? Not necessarily, but I think they are good for the next 4 or 5 game weeks, especially with a double in 29 as well. And they might still have a fixture in game week 28 too. Iwobi, McNeil, or Sarabia? Probably Iwobi. Sarabia, what I like about him is that he's on set pieces. He took 8 corners, I think, in the last game. So I'd actually favour him over McNeil, but Iwobi would maybe be first. Tricky one because it's really comparing average FPL assets at best. Will KDB start this week or -4 for Salah? I think KDB could start, but it's still worth a hit to Salah. Best defender for 5 million, already have Tarkowski. Probably Kilman. I would have said Gomez, but I'm not sure if he starts now. Imagine Haaland scores more than everyone that doubles. I mean, it's possible, of course, and those that captain Haaland will be laughing, but I am backing Saka, Odegaard, and potentially Salah as well to outscore him. Patterson play? One start at most. I think he doesn't start any of them. Maybe comes off the bench. Watkins or Nketiah? Long-term Watkins, but for Game Week 25, it's definitely Nketiah. No doubt about it. I don't know about others, but I'm looking to bench boost 29 before wildcard, as I think a good bench boost is possible. Yeah, the only problem I would have with that, if I'm not mistaken, is that Game Week 29 comes just after a international break, which, you know, always comes with some question marks of its own. But I am also thinking about that as well. I think I mentioned it earlier. I think it looks pretty good as well. Shaw to Tarkowski, Mahrez to Salah, and Kane to Darwin. Yes, ultimately, good transfers. Even though I like Kane a lot, I would do it. Who should I take for Mahrez, McNeil, or Iwobi? Or should I keep Mahrez and transfer Trippier for Tarkowski? Good question. I'm not really a big fan of getting rid of Mahrez or Trippier, in particular Trippier. So if I had to make one transfer, it would be Mahrez out for Iwobi. But I have to admit, I do prefer Tarkowski over Everton midfielders for sure. But I'd also want Trippier back for Game Week 27. So it really depends, Deathstroke. If you can get Trippier back in, it won't be an issue, and you've got the funds in the bank necessary, then Trippier to Tarkowski is probably the better transfer overall, in my opinion. But of course, it's a tricky one. They're not necessarily great FPL options anyway, these Everton assets. Change Trippier to Arnold? Yes. If you can bring Trippier back in eventually for 27, then definitely. Of course, Arnold costs more, so you naturally could do so, but you might have other moves planned for Game Weeks 26 and 27. You know, these Brentford and Brighton players that double in 27 as well. What do you think is better option? Martinelli and Darwin or Nketiah Mahrez with Salah and Trent, of course? Nketiah Mahrez, slightly. I would have concerns about them long term with Jesus coming back soon. Mahrez has got the Champions League as well, and if City progress to the next round, Mahrez is going to be a big rotation risk in future weeks, but right now I think that is the better duo. Does it make sense that I get Salah and Darwin taking a -4 and now I captain Saka? Yes, I've taken a -8 and at the moment I'm going for Saka captain. It does make sense, of course. It does maybe slightly reduce the appeal of that hit to not captain Salah in the end, but ultimately it is worth it. Change Trippier to Arnold or change Almiron to another midfielder? I would go to Arnold, but in terms of midfielders, who would I go for? Apart from Salah, it'd be Odegaard and Saka. Not a big fan of the rest. Gakpo's decent. He'd be my 4th favourite midfielder this week, but he's not someone I'd like to have long term. There's not a exact timestamp on this, but there is a chance he misses this week. That's for sure. Marco Silva wasn't very optimistic in his press conference. Then again, he isn't someone to really be trusted upon based on his recent press conferences over the last year or so. But yeah, I think he won't be starting in Game Week 25, and he should be back for Game Week 26, but ultimately, he is a sell in my opinion. Hey Dylan went Kane to Watkins instead of Darwin, looking at more long-term, as Watkins is probably immune to rotation and plays guaranteed in the blank game week. No, he's not a poor choice. He's also scored in 4 successive games, doubles in 29, no blank in 28 or 25, good fixtures. There's a lot to like, and I'm not a big fan of him in general, but he's on form, he's got the fixtures, he ticks a lot of boxes. Why not? I think he's a good player. He's actually in my wildcard team. Thoughts on Matoma to Willian for -4? Willian's been in great form. It's not a bad shout at all. Fulham are pushing for the top 4 even at the moment. But yeah, am I really backing Willian for a haul this week? Not necessarily, but it could be a stroke of genius, of course. And Willian's got some good fixtures as well. I mean, that's debatable, to be fair. I mean, this is the thing with Willian. When I'm looking at the next 4 or 5 game weeks and the other midfielders you could bring in for Game Week 27, and you'd want Mitoma back for that, I'd probably just stick with 10 and not do Willian, to be honest. Kane, Rashford for Salah, Watkins -4. Yes, I would do it. As long as you have a nice route back to Rashford in Game Week 26 or 27, which you probably would want to get him back in. Thank you, Harry. Yeah, I'm worried about him as well, honestly. And I think Kane to Darwin could be one of the worst transfers I've made all season. I've taken a -8 hit this week. I've brought in Tarkowski, Robertson for sure Cucurella. I've also brought in Salah and Darwin for Mahrez and Kane. Not a big fan of those transfers, but I think it does pay off in the end. And that's obviously going to be the hope. Let's wait and see if that ends up happening. Do you think Mikalenko has attacking threat? Not necessarily. I think the one with the biggest attacking threat would be Tarkowski. Yeah, he's got the biggest attacking threat. That's why I've gone for him. Mikalenko might be one of the better ones for bonus points and for assists, but not necessarily for goals. Kane to Darwin and Martinelli to Odegaard for a -8. I'd probably just do Martinelli to Odegaard if you can for a -4. Liverpool 1.18 goals away, Palace 1 goal conceded at home, Liverpool 2.25 goals at home, Wolves concede 1.25, Arsenal 2 goals at home, Leicester 1.18, away Arsenal 2.25, and Everton goals conceded at home 1.45. Yeah, that is an interesting one. Of course, the Leicester fixture will be away and Everton at home, but yeah, I mean, it's a tricky one. Those numbers aren't really screaming a huge haul for any of those, but in particular the Liverpool assets. I still like Salah a lot though, and he is worth taking a -4 or -8 hit. But you know, some people are apprehensive about that. I can understand, because getting rid of Kane, for example, for hits is just not ideal. Any big team news or fresh injuries you know of? As far as I'm aware, no. There might be something slipping my mind, but I don't think there's anything that came out today or recently that you know, is something worth mentioning. Sell Martinelli, bring Saka for -4? Yes, definitely. Good mids around 7 million. Gakpo, but he might be a bit above your price threshold, because apart from him, there's just Odegaard, really, who for me is the second best or third best midfielder in Game Week 25. Trust Bueno or Shaw to Trent -4? I'd probably do Shaw to Trent for a -4. I think it's worth it. Any Aston Villa midfielder recommended? Buendia's been in good form recently, but I'd rather go for Bailey, if anything. To be honest, with Aston Villa, the best asset they have is Watkins right now. I think it's sensible to say Trent and Robertson are about equally nailed, and Trent's slightly better attacking stats, so I think Trent wins. Yeah, and also better for bonus points, which is the big kind of upside, and also less prone to yellow cards. Trent plus Watkins or Nunez and Tarkowski? Trent and Watkins for me. Should I bring in Gabriel, Tarkowski, Robertson for Bueno, Akanji, Patterson? Yes. I think I went through it earlier, and I'll say the same thing again. I can't just do Martinelli to Odegaard. Kane to Darwin frees up the funds. I can understand. That's a tricky one. I probably would do it. I would do it, because I'm not sure if Martinelli starts. Thank you, Aaron, for the super chat. You've sent super chats before as well, so I appreciate that, and everyone else who sent it in today. Start Perisic or Ake? I'd probably go for Ake. I think he starts, and he's got a better chance of a clean sheet. So it's a tricky one, but I'd go for Ake. Why not captain Salah? I mean, look, it's a tricky one. I might even captain him in the end. He's got the better underlying numbers all season, but since, well, you could say the last 4 game weeks, his underlying numbers are actually pretty poor. I have to say, though, his games against Everton, Newcastle, and Real Madrid have filled me with confidence, and I might even captain him in the end, I have to say. It's a really tough one. I might put a poll out if you want to see that, or maybe if you have another idea for a poll, let me know, and I'll try to put it in the live chat right now, and you can basically help each other with your decisions as well. I prefer Trent. I went for Robertson simply because I can't afford Trent. Kane or Tony to Salah? I'd rather do Tony to Salah if you can, as part of a -4, whatever it may be, as long as you can get Tony back in for Game Week 27. Now that KDB is injured, do you think Mahrez will play that role in City attack? I haven't seen any news about De Bruyne being injured. He's actually back in training today, according to Pep Guardiola, and you would expect him to start in Game Week 25 potentially. So with Mahrez, I don't think it's that. With Mahrez, the big concerns with him would be Grealish and Foden, especially Foden playing on the right-hand side. But Mahrez is the first-choice right winger, and I think the big concern with Mahrez is the Champions League. That is really what I'm concerned about with Mahrez. Best 8 million midfielder other than Saka, Odegaard, and Salah? It'd be Gakpo this week, for sure. Tarkowski in for Botman for a -4? Yes, I would do it. Fernandes to Salah and Martinelli to Iwobi -4. Not a big fan of Iwobi, but getting Salah in as part of a -4, Fernandes blanks, yes, it's good. It looks pretty good. You should make those points up. What's the best 4.5 and under defender to get apart from Tarkowski? Kilman. Shaw to Trent for free, 11 players, or Martinelli and Felix to Darwin and Saka for a -4, 10 playable? Good question. I would go for... As much as I like Saka a lot, I mean, that's the thing. That's what it really comes down to. Saka. I will do Shaw to Trent for free in your situation. Thoughts on getting in Jota? Not even sure he starts. I think Nunez will. Yeah, I don't expect Jota to start both games, and as a result, I wouldn't bring him in. Thank you, Con. I appreciate it. I've got Trent, Mikalenko, White. Who else can I bring in for Trippier that's not Liverpool, Everton, or Arsenal? Well, really, you're looking at Kilman from Wolves, because apart from him, You know, maybe your Aston Villa defender could be the one. Away to Everton this week, doesn't blank in 28, double in 29. Maybe someone like Mings could be the solution for you. Not a big fan of Aston Villa defensively, to be quite frank, but not many options, to be fair. And actually, one underrated option I haven't talked about is from Spurs. And I know they face Chelsea this week, but Davis is looking at the best Spurs defender, and they've got some great fixtures coming up, despite no doubles. So, yeah, maybe Mings or Davis, which sounds completely ridiculous. And if you just want a double game defender, Kilman would fit the bill, I think. Neves or Iwobi? Probably Iwobi. Ake, Darwin, Salah, or Kane, Gakpo, Matip? Ake, Darwin, Salah. Bueno to Tarkowski for a hit? Yes. Rashford and Mitrovic to Darwin and McNeil? I can see why you're doing it, but I don't like getting rid of Rashford for McNeil when you probably want to get Rashford back in next week. If you don't have a clear route back to Rashford in 26 or 27, I probably wouldn't do it. Hi, Dylan. I have one free transfer. Should I take a -8 for Salah and Trent selling Kane? Yes, I would. I've done the same thing, reluctantly, but I would do it. Botman to Robertson or Shaw to Trent? I can only do one of these moves. I would do Shaw to Trent because Newcastle don't blank in 28, confirmed. United are very likely to, and Newcastle have better fixtures, so I'd rather do Shaw to Trent. I think that's the better move for you. Should I take a hit to remove Perisic? Not sure for who, though. I wouldn't get rid of Perisic this week necessarily. Maybe save that transfer next week, in my opinion. Bench boost with Sarr, Trossard, Kilman, and Jesus. A bench boost this week seems wild. No, I wouldn't do that. A few reasons why, sorry, is because Trossard might not start both games, and the big reason why is because Jesus is still not back yet, and he's not going to be in the squad against Leicester. So, no, I wouldn't bench boost with that. What do you think about Leno and Ream on a free hit team? I wouldn't go for both, but one definitely is viable. I think they have a good chance of a clean sheet against Wolves. So definitely, I even recommended them. I talked about them on the free hit team video. If you don't go for Ream as one of your back five, then you could just go for Leno to cover Fulham's defence. I think it's a good shout. Start Patterson or Andreas or take a -8 to get Tarkowski. I would go for Andreas, but a hit to Tarkowski looks fine as well, Jeff. Short to Tarkowski, Martinelli to Salah, Kane to Nunez -8. Yes, I would do it. Ramsdale or Nketiah? Nketiah has the highest ceiling, so I'd go for that. I think I just missed a super chat. Thank you, Aaron. Very much appreciated. Triple captain Saka or Salah? It's a tricky one because I'll be honest with you, I might switch the captaincy to Salah right now. I'm really considering it. I definitely would use it now if I still had the triple captaincy on either one of those two players. And for me, Saka's maybe the more reliable player, the least likely to blank. But Salah has the highest ceiling of the two, and the fixtures are better, in my opinion. Wolves and Crystal Palace have worse underlying numbers compared to Leicester and Everton since the restart. So that could play a part in your thinking as well. But as Twisted Parky put, some underlying numbers and some, average goals per game and goals conceded per game at home and away. Those stats might actually favour Arsenal over Liverpool as a result. So maybe you'd favour Saka. So it's a tricky one. I think Saka's maybe a bit more trustworthy and reliable this season, which sounds crazy to say. So I'd probably say Saka. Having said that, I might actually switch to Salah, but a triple captaincy this week looks fine, and I think it could pay off this week for sure, Aaron. Let me know what you end up deciding, and of course, you can see with my team, you'll see if I end up going for Salah in the end, but it's literally 50-50 for me. Thank you, Roy. I appreciate it. Selling Kane makes me sick in the stomach. Yeah, I agree. Even against Chelsea at home and Wolves away next week, honestly, it just doesn't look right. It honestly doesn't. Especially for Darwin, of all people. Is Robertson a much worse option than Trent? No, I don't think so. I think Robertson, is a bit underrated and overlooked. Thank you, Jeff. -8, Botman to Tarkowski, Mahrez to Salah, and Kane to Nunez. Yes. Simple answer is yes. Trent captain. If you've got a feeling, go for it. But I personally don't have that confidence in Liverpool defensively to captain a player. In years gone by, I would have considered it, but not this year. Mitrovic to Watkins for a -4. I think it's worth it, It might not pay off this week, but it will in 26, 27 and beyond, especially in the blanks and doubles afterwards. Mahrez on the free hit. He was in my free hit team. I think he starts. I think it's fine. Hi, mate. Tarkowski or Coleman? Yeah, I like Coleman's effective ownership and overall ownership, so that's a good point. But I do prefer Tarkowski for the attacking threat. I think he's really being targeted under Sean Dyche for those set pieces. You look at the XG and expected assists, really good numbers for a centre-back. Thank you, Richard. What do you think of Thiago Silva to Robertson? I think it looks perfect for a -4. And with the 2 doubles in the next 5 game weeks, looks solid. Botman and Kane to Tarkowski and Darwin for a -4. Might be the changes this week. Might have to confirm it now to reduce the stress. Yeah, trust me, do not leave transfers until the last 10 minutes or so. I've done it in UCL Fantasy before. I've done it in FPL. Honestly, it's just not good. Sometimes I make the wrong decision as a result, and you don't want to induce stress. I think it's good to do it now. And honestly, those transfers look fine. I know getting rid of Kane for a hit isn't great, but it should pay off this week. Andres or Bueno to start? Probably Bueno, just in the hopes that he starts one or both games. Matip or Gomez? Matip. Saka essential if I have Odegaard and Nketiah? He's not completely essential, but he's one of the top 3 options this week for sure. And he is the best Arsenal asset at the moment. Cody or Tarkowski? Tarkowski for me. But Cody's also a decent option. The same goes for Mikalenko and Coleman. Salah's good form against Palace, that is true. I remember when he came off the bench and scored, a 17-pointer in a 7-0 win for Liverpool. But it's a different situation right now. Short to Tarkowski, Morris to Salah, Tony to Greenwood, -4. Yes. Ultimately, I would go for it, although you might want to get Tony back in for 27 when he doubles. I'm looking to bring in Bowen. Yeah, on a free hit, it's worth a punt, but I have to say, West Ham have been shocking all season. They had a bit of a little run. They won in the FA Cup, beat Everton comprehensively. Bowen obviously playing a part in that, but they're not consistent enough. Bowen's had an awful season by his standards, and you're looking at Nottingham Forest. They've been very impressive since the restart. So that's why I haven't really recommended West Ham assets or Jared Bowen. I think Nottingham Forest could get a result there and also frustrate West Ham again. Shaw, Bruno, Kane to Tarkowski, Salah, Darwin -8, or Tarkowski to Shaw and play of 10. Good question. It's fair of you to ask. I'd go for the -8. Salah or Odegaard captain? Salah for me. Thoughts on Grealish this week? Not a bad shout, but I'm not a big fan of him FPL-wise. Is it good to sell Edison for Pickford, Martinelli to Saka, De Bruyne to Salah for a -8? Yes, but I'd only sell Edison to Pickford if you need that to fund the other moves. Otherwise, just stick to Martinelli to Saka and De Bruyne to Salah. Yep. Or Salah. Saka or Salah for me are the best captaincy options, and triple captain them, I wouldn't mind too much. Yeah, I'm currently going for Saka, but I have to say I'm very conflicted about it, and that's why I might put another poll out. But I'm going to show you what my YouTube channel was saying when I did a poll myself yesterday. So bear with me for a second. Yeah, the poll hasn't changed much from yesterday. So let's bring this up on screen. All right, so if we go here to this poll, vote for your Double Gameweek 25 captain. 49% of you have gone for Saka, almost half. 40% with Salah, and then you've got Odegaard and Haaland sharing third position as well. Maybe the likes of Trent would have been a bit more popular than Odegaard and Haaland, but yeah, pretty interesting stuff. Most people favouring Saka due to his sheer consistency. Let me know your thoughts on this one, because that is the big question of today, I think. Saka, Salah captaincy, alongside how many hits should we take? Should we use the free hit? I mean, yeah, Mahrez can haul, and I think he'll start against Bournemouth and do well, but ultimately he's going to be a minute's concern if City go through in the FA Cup and Champions League. Hi Dylan, did you play a wild card this week? No. I might play in 27, but I'm not looking to play in 25 or 26 at the moment. Trent or Robertson? Trent. Gakpo or Mahrez? For this week, Gakpo. Long term, it's definitely Mahrez still. We discussed a couple of weeks ago, Dylan, what's the reason behind no free hit this week? What week looks better for it? I'm looking at Game Week 28, where for my team, it might be better for me. And also, I've already got a triple up in Arsenal. And, obviously it's a -8 hit, but with this -8, I've got most of the options I would like anyway. There's not anyone that I look at and think, oh, I'm really missing out on him this week, apart from Trent, really. So, yeah, I can understand what you're saying, but Game Week 28, I think, is when I might use it, or even Game Week 29, because I'm looking to also wildcard potentially in Game Week 27 too, and that will also maybe start to cater towards a free hit in the following weeks as well. White, Trent, or Robertson, Zinchenko? Good question. I think I'd go for Robertson and Zinchenko, but honestly, it's really tough to call. It's 50-50, and it all comes down to personal preference. There's not a big difference between Zinchenko and White. The same goes for Trent or Robertson. It's just down to personal preference, and just because White is maybe a bit more vulnerable to rotation than Zinchenko is, I'd favour the latter, but it's really close. I mean, I only have Saka, so he's my captain with Odegaard as vice, even with Darwin in my team confirmed. If I had Salah, I'd still captain Saka due to reliability. Yeah, it is a really close call. I don't think there's a clear right or wrong, but there could be a huge point swing, as we've seen. You know, I've got my captaincy wrong recently. In Champions League Fantasy, I got João Mario. I kind of went for the jugular, and I ended up having Kvaratskhelia with a 4-pointer, then switched to Haaland. That didn't go right. In FPL, I captained Haaland last week. So need to get the captaincy right for sure, because recently it hasn't been good enough. Twisted Parky says, my gut says Salah, but stats maybe slightly Saka, but then consider overall goal involvements. ICT index, Salah 200, Saka 212, but Saka slightly more owned. Yeah, exactly. It's really a close decision. In years gone by, Salah's the clear winner, but this year, Saka's definitely, you know, he's entered that kind of captain category where we consider him every single week. He's in the top 5. He's not kind of Rashford or Haaland level, but he's kind of slowly behind, and he's also maybe a bit more consistent than some of them over the course of the season. Not Haaland, of course, but yeah, it's a tricky one. -4 for Kane to Darwin, only to find other moves. That's literally it. I would not do it usually. Trying to spam the chat because you're going to be timed out and banned. I keep forgetting the FPL site that we can use to plan future weeks. What is it called, Dylan? It's called FPL.team. So I'll put it now in the live chat. Click on that link, and all you need is your user ID. And if you put that in, you will have all your team loaded up, and you can see future game weeks and plan accordingly. And Zinchenko or Nketiah for the triple up. This week Nketiah. But as I talked about in the wildcard team video, if you're looking for someone long term, then Zinchenko is definitely the one I'd rather have. But game week 25, I think Nketiah will score more points. Andreas, Chilwell, Mahrez, Bueno, bench. Who for Darwin? When I'm looking at that, I think Chilwell could be the one to bench, oddly enough. It's between him, Bueno, and Andreas, because I'd definitely start Mahrez, of course. But yeah, I wouldn't bench Bueno for the double game week. And yeah, it really comes down to the first two. And I'd probably bench... It's a tricky one. I think I'd bench Chilwell. Edison or Arrizabalaga? This week, Edison. Long-term Kepa Arrizabalaga. I confirm Saka captain. Please don't blank. Yeah, that is the hope there. Wildcard advisable. I saw someone earlier say that they have 7 players they don't want and they want to make some wholesale changes. In that kind of situation, I definitely think it's worth it. But you also have to think about the wildcard now. How does that influence your plans later? Are you well set up for game week 27 and 29 and also 28? Do you have a free hit in your back pocket? You need to ask yourself these questions, and click on that link I put in the live chat just now, fpl.team. That could really help you with your transfer plans as well. I have Vinicius as captain, still botched the winter transfers. Oh yeah, that is frustrating when you have a player that ends up hauling so much and end up switching it. But then again, I don't think any of us expected a 17-pointer. I thought Vinicius would score. He was my tip for man of the match, but I did not expect a 5-2 victory, especially after Liverpool went 2-0 up. So that's football for you. And Real Madrid can never be underestimated in the Champions League. I haven't confirmed it yet, but one possible avenue for me is wildcard 27. Free hit in either 28 or 29, and if I free in 28, it'd be a bench boost in 29 potentially. So that could be the plan. Yeah, let's see what he's saying. Let's see how it goes. Let's now go back to my team. Should we? I just want to show you one other thing quickly, potentially, before we move on. So let's go to this. All right, now we'll go back to my team for now. We'll go back to my team. All right, so this is it. 10 players despite taking a -8 hit, which looks a bit ridiculous to be fair. Getting rid of Kane, but I have confirmed these transfers, and the last thing to settle on is the captaincy. Best captain defender for Liverpool, is that it? Trent. I mean, for me, Trent or Robertson, but it'd be Trent. Ward versus Kepa. I'm going for Kepa. Is it worth going for a -8 and getting Tarkowski and selling Shaw? Yes, I think it is. If you mean by -8, making 2 transfers or something, then no. But Shaw to Tarkowski, you're already on a -4, you take another one. Yeah, I think it's worth it. Is captaining Trent crazy? I don't say it's crazy. He is one of the top 5 options this week, but I don't trust Liverpool defensively. So as a result, I wouldn't go for it. It will be Mahrez. I'd actually favour Mahrez if he starts. Trent and Gakpo, Darwin and Gakpo, or Trent and Watkins? Good question. Long-term, Trent and Watkins is my favourite. Definitely. -8 for Salah Nunez, yes. When do you think is the best use of the bench boost if I want to wildcard in 29? 34. Because game weeks 29, 34, and 37 will be the biggest double game weeks. And 29 is obviously one of them. You're wildcarding there. So 34 would be one of the best times to use the bench boost. So yeah, 34. KDB to Salah or keep KDB and get Trent for sure. Good question, but I'd do KDB to Salah. I think that's the better move. Start Bueno or Pereira? Good question, mate. Bueno. Double Liverpool defense, Wolves or Everton? If I had to double up on any, it would be Liverpool. But my preference would be long-term, one of each, basically, especially of Liverpool and Everton, with Wolves being at the bottom of that. No. If I was to use a chip this week, it would be the free hit. I've already used the triple captaincy on Rashford a few weeks ago. So, yeah, I think I would use the free hit, if any. But right now, no. Captain Odegaard or Darwin? Odegaard. I think Darwin's decent, but yeah, Odegaard's the better FPL option. Yeah, triple captain Salah or Saka is the play for me this week. I think that's the best one for those of you that still have the chip. Hi, Dylan. Captain Nketiah for a punt? Not for me. I think he'll score in this double gaming, but not enough to outscore the likes of Saka and Salah. I think one of those will definitely outscore Nketiah. Yes, Car. Unfortunately, I did take a -8 hit. Welcome, Khalid. Captain Nketiah or Odegaard? I would go for Odegaard, personally. I think the bonus points potential, the double-digit haul potential is certainly better than Nketiah. I would go for Odegaard. Captain Odegaard and hope to take 12 for bonus, or stick with Saka with all people. I like Odegaard. I think he could be a bit overlooked and underrated, just like Robertson is compared to Trent, but Saka would be my preference. Looking at Arsenal in recent weeks, Saka has been the most informed player in the ranks. Will Patterson play this game week? I don't think so. What's happening in Game Week 28? A blank. So just to recap, there are certain teams that have a confirmed fixture. They will not blank. So Arsenal, Crystal Palace, Aston Villa, Bournemouth, Chelsea, Everton, Nottingham Forest and Newcastle will all play in Game Week 28. But you've got the likes of Man City, Man United, Brighton, Tottenham, Southampton, West Ham, Leicester, Brentford, Wolves, Leeds, Liverpool and Fulham. They could all blank in Game Week 28. So hopefully you got that. But basically, we have got only a handful of teams that will definitely have a fixture in Game Week 28. And that's basically just 8 that I mentioned earlier, including Arsenal. And that's why also Newcastle assets like Trippier are worth keeping if you can hold on to them. Is it worth selling Bruno for Salah? Definitely. I think it is. Thank you, Miguel. Thank you very much. Do you think Cunha starts tonight? Yes, but am I a big fan of him FPL-wise or Wolves assets in general offensively? No, not really. Hello, are you triple captaining Saka? No. I've already used it on Rashford in Game Week 22. It worked out well. I'm happy with it. If I still had the chip, I would use it this week, I think, on Saka or Salah. So that's the way I'd go about it. Kepa to Alisson, your opinion? I still would rather have Kepa long term, and let's not forget, as I just read out the list of teams blanking in 28 or possibly blanking, you don't have that issue with Chelsea. They're facing Everton in that game week. They've got a double in 29 as well. So I just keep Kepa, honestly. Matip or Tsimikas or Gomez? Matip, in my opinion. Nketiah, Botman to Darwin and Gabriel? No. I think Nketiah will possibly outscore Darwin in this game week, and as a result, I wouldn't do it. Actually, if you can, I'd do Botman to Tarkowski. Pretty set on Saka captain, but interesting that Saka only has 2 double-digit hauls and Odegaard has 6. Is it 2? I think you might be right about that. I thought it was 1, but I think you are right there. I'll double-check that. Saka's got quite a few 9 pointers, so to speak. You know, he typically gets maybe 1, 2, or 3 bonus points, but not enough to get that that double-digit return. So let me actually double-check that. I think you are right. So yeah, his double-digit hauls have come against Liverpool. I think it's just Liverpool, but he's got a few 9-pointers, including the one against Man City, against Man United as well. But yeah, Saka, very consistent. That's what he has. But Odegaard has the higher ceiling and the bonus points potential. By when should we know what team's blanking Game Week 28? By the time we get the next FA Cup games, basically. Let me get the exact date for you. So just hold on for a second. Yeah, so basically this week already we've already got the FA Cup. So next midweek, we've got the likes of Man City versus Bristol. You know, fixtures like that. You'd expect Man City to go through. If they do, they're going to blank in Game Week 28. And even if Man City get eliminated somehow, if their opponent, the possible next opponent in the Premier League, which I think would be Brighton in Game Week 28, if they go through against Stoke City, then they will blank anyway. So yeah, by next midweek, we'll find out. So starting from the Tuesday, 28th of February, that's when we'll start to find out which teams will blank in Game Week 28 definitively. So hopefully you got that. Good question. I needed to remind myself there. One of them was a double game week, to be fair. Yeah, I think that's what you meant, Marco. That's understandable. But that's what I mean. In a double game week, a 9-6 pointer, that'd be a huge haul. I'd be quite happy with that. -4 or free hit? -4, definitely. Mikalenko or Tarkowski? I like both, but I'd rather go for Tarkowski. Bueno and Gakpo to Robertson and Andreas? That's a tricky one because getting rid of Gakpo, you know, as much as I'm not a big fan of him, would I get rid of him this week? Not really. I wouldn't make those transfers, basically, to be quite frank with you. Do I prefer Robertson and Andreas? Yes, but is it worth a transfer, especially for a hit potentially? No. So only if you're using a wild card or free hit and you're kind of playing around with it. Thank you, Mac. Best keeper to replace Pope. For me, it's still Kepa or Raya. And you might say, Raya? He's blanking this week. But you could just play Kepa. Sorry, not Kepa. You could play Ward or Forster as your second goalkeeper this week. And Raya has a double in 27 and 29 as well. Is Matip nailed? I'd say he will start both games, yeah. Is he nailed long-term? No. But as long as Konate and Gomez are out, then yeah, Matip will start the games. Who should I replace Patterson with? Yeah, I can see what you mean. I'm not really feeling them too much either. Tarkowski would have been my preference. If you can stretch to someone like Trent or Robertson, then I'd go for them. But ultimately, it would be probably a step too far for you. Most of the other defenders that I like Ben Mee, Estupinian, they're blanking. Trippier, Luke Shaw, Botman. So it's a tricky one this week. But maybe someone who ticks all the boxes for you would be an Aston Villa defender like Tyrone Mings. Game Week 27 double looks so tasty for Tony. Yeah, it looks pretty decent, to be fair. We just have to hope he doesn't get the yellow cards. No, I wouldn't say it's necessary, but I do like Liverpool defenders this week. On a free hit, I'd potentially go for a double up. Is Saka could be suspended after the first game? I don't think so. I'll check how many yellow cards he's on, just to make sure, but I don't think he's at a risk. The one that is Ivan Toney. So Bukayo Saka has how many yellow cards? He's on 8, is he? No, he's not 8. That's clean sheets. He's only on 5 yellow cards. He's fine. He needs 5 more yellow cards to be suspended. He's not a worry. Let's see what else we have. Best midfielder other than Salah? Well, definitely Saka and Odegaard for me this week. No doubt about it. Kane and Shaw to Nunez and Trent -8. Yes. Why aren't you free hitting this week? I mean, that's a good question. I looked at my future weeks using FPL.team, and I think one possible plan for me is to use the wildcard in 27 and free hit in either 28 or 29. So that's the reason why I've decided not to use the free hit at the moment. But look, maybe the free hit would be good to use this week. I'm just looking at my kind of structure. I already had 9 players going into this week. Now I have 10 with a -8, more double gimmick players as well. And apart from Trent, there's not really anyone else I would include. And I would have a few doubts with a free hit as well. I don't really see such a high scoring week. Not a big fan of these Wolves and Everton assets. So to go for Pickford, you know, I'm just not really a big fan of a free hit this week, ultimately. Is it worth a punt on Matip? Yeah, I'd say so. Although I do prefer Robertson. I think he will start. Egan, yeah, I think he will. Darwin or Robertson? Robertson for me. Gakpo for Morris for -4? Good question. I think Morris starts, so I wouldn't do it. The only reason I did it is because I've gone to Salah, who I expect to start both and get the minutes he needs. With Gakpo, I could see him being subbed off quite early and even possibly benched very soon. So that's why I've gone for Morris to Salah. Would I do Gakpo in for -4? Probably not. Can Solanke score against City? Yeah, I mean, even Chris Wood did the other day. Will he? Not in my opinion. Heidel and Botman to Gomez, who has yellow next to his name for -4. Well, that's the thing. Gomez might not even start. I wouldn't do it. And I was actually looking to get Gomez in, but that was before the Champions League game. He played poorly there. Got the injury, of course, so I just wouldn't go for him now. I would go for Trent, but there's not much to separate them. And I think Robertson, I would not be surprised if he outscored Trent, let me put it that way. But For me, Trent has the better underlying numbers. He's also better for bonus points, and as a result, he would be my preference. I went for Robertson simply because I can't afford Trent. Akanji or Gomez, says Abram. Probably Akanji. I don't think either of them are nailed on, though, especially right now. Captain Saka or Salah? I've gone for Saka, but yeah, I'm kind of thinking over that a little bit, and a possible switch to Salah's on the cards. Best Almiron replacement? I mean, as a double gimmick player, maybe Iwobi, but just not a big fan of that. Hey, bro, Robertson or Darwin from -4? It'd be Robertson, but it also depends on who you take out, Demantis. Yeah. Are you taking a hit? I've taken 2. I've taken a -8. I've made 4 transfers. Prioritize Trent or Darwin? Trent for me. Will Akanji start? I think so. Rashford to Saka? Yes. And if you can get Rashford back in 26 or 27, even better. Adil puts his team, 2 free transfers and 2.1 million in the bank. Let's see. Difficult one. You've got quite a few blankers as well. Trying to think. So in terms of defenders, you've only got White and Walker really, because Patterson you wouldn't expect to start. Salah, Odegaard, Mahrez I'd expect to start. Haaland, Nketiah, that looks pretty decent. It's just the rest as well. So with 2 free transfers, what would I do? I think I would do a tough one. 2.1 million in the bank. Okay. Okay, so I'd do Shaw to Tarkowski, and unless my maths is completely off, then I think you could get in Saka or Mitoma. Let me know if you could do that deal. I think that looked pretty good, and you'd be well set up for Game Week 25. Best dunk replacement. I mean, apart from Liverpool fullbacks, I'd say Tarkowski. Ake to start? Yes, I'd say so. Coleman or Tarkowski in for Botman? Tarkowski for me. Downgrade Trippier to free, Martinelli to Odegaard for a -8. That's a tough one, man. Some really good questions in today, and I probably would, but I have to say, try to get Trippier back in for 27. The kits you see on screen are just a Chrome extension, really. So if you type in FPL away kits Chrome extension, you'll find it. You can add it to your browser. Not Safari, but you can do it for Google Chrome and Brave. What about Felix over Watkins? I'd rather go for Watkins. Yeah, with Chelsea, yeah, they have the double in 29, but so do Villa. They've got no blank in 28. I know Chelsea don't either, but I think Watkins is just a far better option right now than Felix, and Chelsea aren't creating enough. As bad as Aston Villa can be, they still create chances and can cause teams problems with their offensive capabilities. So I'd rather go for Watkins, to be honest. But Felix is not bad. He's probably the best of a bad bunch at Chelsea. Will James start? I think so. John, yeah. Brought Trent, Tarkowski and Nunez and sold Kane, Burn and Shaw, took a -8 hit. Is it worth it? Yeah. I think it is worth it. 7 double game weeks and 4 single. Yeah, that's fine. That's completely fine. Should I sell Kane to bring Salah in? Yes, I probably would. A bit reluctantly. I've done it myself. Mitro to Watkins for another -4. Yeah, it will pay off in the long term. If you're not looking to wildcard in 27, then I'd definitely do it now, because Watkins ticks so many boxes. Keep Malpai. I mean, he has a double, but Malpai is a pretty poor option. I mean, look, he's got the double, so I'd keep him, but he's not a good FPL option. Worth selling Nketiah for Darwin? Not in my opinion. The only way I'd sell Nketiah is to fund the move, or to fund that slot, because you might have a triple up in Arsenal, to go for Saka or Odegaard. Otherwise, no. Kane to Darwin for a -4, only to fund other moves. Otherwise, keep Kane. Perisic to Matip? I probably would. Welcome, Yash. 4.8 million and lower midfield options. I mean, there's not much to choose from. Andres Pereira, Leon Bailey. They would be the best ones. I'll have a look now at others to see if I've maybe overlooked someone. So just give me a second. I'll see if I can give you a name. 4.8 million. Yeah, I think Andreas Bailey would be the best. Anyone else? Not really. I'm looking down the list and it's pretty grim, to say the least. So yeah, that would be it. Those two would be the best ones. And trying to see. No, there's no one else. Yeah, Andreas or Bailey. And if I had to pick one, I mean, Andreas is just more nailed on. He is my preference, but Bailey doesn't blank for sure in 28, so you might have to consider that as well. Let's see what else we have. So we're literally 60 minutes away from the deadline. Thank you, Geotip. Does Mitro start? I don't think so. Based on the update we got yesterday, I don't think so. Sancho Odegaard? I mean, definitely Odegaard, and Sancho blanks this week anyway. Neves or McNeil? Good question. I'd actually favour McNeil this week, actually. Sell Tony for Darwin Nunez. Yeah. And if you can bring Tony back in for 27, even better. Odegaard or Salah captain. Odegaard's great, but I'd rather go for Salah. Any updates on the free hit team? Good question. Not really, I think. I think it'd stay the same. Maybe you could get rid of Mahrez if you're not backing him to start, but I think I'd go for that, actually. Thanks, but I can't do the moves as I already have 3 Arsenal players, so can't do Matoma to Saka part. Ah, yeah. That is a tricky one for you, Adil. Yeah, put your team up again, Adil, and then I'll try to give you another set of moves there for you. Best centre-back or defender to replace Shaw for under 5 million? Tarkowski. Yusuf, I brought Salah, Nunez, and Tarkowski in for Bruno, Kane, and Shaw. Still have Matoma and Patterson. Should I buy? Which one of them, and who could I bring? Still have Matoma and Patterson. Should I buy? Which one of them? If I had to buy someone, it would be Tarkowski in for Patterson. Well, you've got Tarkowski in already. Maybe Kilman? I'm not sure how much money you have in the bank, though, Yusuf, so it's difficult for me to answer that. But I'd keep Matoma. He's got the double in 27 and 29, so Patterson's the one to sell. Shaw, Almiron, Bruno to Salah, Tarkowski, McNeil for -4, or Bruno, Trippier to Gakpo, Trent? Good question. I would go for the -4. Still confused about the captaincy. So am I. I'm going for Saka right now, but it's a close call. Do you think Patterson will play? No. Is it worth taking a second hit to have Nunez, Andreas over Gakpo, Greenwood? No. I just keep Gakpo. Robertson or Trent? Trent. Buy Nunez for a -4 or play Bueno Andreas? That's a good one. I'd buy Nunez for a -4. You don't need to, though. Trippier or Shaw to Trent? Sure. I'd rather keep Trent. I'd rather keep Trippier, sorry. He doesn't blank in 28. Shaw probably will. And Trippier has better fixtures and a better defence. Shaw to Robertson or Felix to Darwin for a -4. Former has 10 starters. Okay. Shaw to Robertson looks better for me. And you could just keep Felix. So, yeah, that is the one, in my opinion. Welcome, Esteban. Prefers fichar a Darwin or a Robertson? Para mí, Robertson. Do you think more people would captain Salah or Saka? That's a good question. I think Saka, higher ownership. And yeah, I think Saka is the one, just because of his ownership. Was thinking Darwin for Tony and Tarkowski for sure, but I feel like I should do one more move for a -4 hit. Yeah, but it really depends. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I'm trying to think, though, with your team. Because how much money would you have in the bank as a result of these moves? That's the thing. That also plays a part. I think you'll have a similar amount anyway. Yeah, it's possible. I'll be honest, I'm not a big fan of Nunez, and that was the one transfer I didn't like, but I had to do it to bring in Salah and Robertson, unfortunately. Triple captain Saka, yep, or Salah. Both of them are fine. I chose Dawson over Kilman, but I'm afraid now. Well, one good thing in your defence is that Dawson is better in terms of goal scoring and set pieces. Best strikers right now, I covered in my best wildcard team video, Haaland, Watkins, and probably Darwin Nunez for now. But long term, Kane is definitely the one to have over Nunez. So really, I'd probably say that. Kane, Haaland, and Watkins. So everyone, let's see, Saka, Salah. Yeah, that is a tough one, isn't it? Twister Parky. It is what it is. Salah 3v Saka 4. Yeah, I'll be honest though, I'm seriously considering switching to Salah. And also, I don't want to jinx Saka. That is also playing a part in my thinking, believe it or not. Matip or Tarkowski? I'd say Tarkowski because he doesn't blank in 28 as well. Salah, Trent, Darwin, or... Let me try to get that up again because I lost the message. Salah, Trent, Darwin, or Salah, Robo, Nunez? I mean, yeah, it's just Trent or Robertson. Trent, in my opinion. Adasha. Fernandes and Mitro to Salah and Darwin, or Fernandes, Mitro, and Shaw to Salah, Watkins, and Trent? Good questions here being thrown out today. I think I would go for... I'd go for the last one. Yeah, I'd go for the last one and put Watkins in as well. Liverpool defence, yeah, I'm not too sure about it either, to be quite frank, but I'm looking to possibly wildcard in 27 as well. Let me try and get your message up a deal. I don't think I've seen... Oh, yeah, here we go. So, yeah, 2.1 million in the bank. I think those transfers make sense. To make an additional one, That is a tough one. Yeah, the forwards I'd keep as it is, bench Tony, and possibly... Yeah, I'd go for the -4 that you said, Adil. I think that's the best case scenario for you, or the 2 transfers you proposed. Okay, let's see what else we have. I still have a chance to recover points, says Geotip. In terms of taking hits, if you took hits, the only way to recover your points is to wildcard or free hit, if that's what you mean. Will Mahrez play, or is he worth swapping out? I can't tell you for sure, but I think he will play. I think he'll start the game. Ake, Kane, or Andreas the bench? It'd be Andreas. Tottenham defender? Davis looks like the best one right now. It sounds crazy, but he's been pretty impressive recently, so he's probably the best of a bad bunch as well. I still have a chance to recover 100 points? Yes, you can, of course. There's a lot of doubles and blanks now. Your chip strategy will play a big part. Obviously, the captaincy until the end of the season, but with so many doubles, of course you can, but it will be difficult. Is Mahrez likely to start? I wouldn't say likely, but I think he will. Welcome, James. Greetings from Niagara Falls, Dylan. Taking a -8 hit this week for a quad Merseyside influx. Same here. It doesn't feel right, but good luck to you, James, and enjoy Niagara Falls. Obviously, beautiful place, and hopefully you enjoy the football. McNeil versus Iwobi. Both of them pretty poor, but I'd rather go for Iwobi. No worries, Twisted Parky, but it is an interesting one. The captaincy is splitting everyone, and I can understand why. Start 1, Bueno or Andres Pereira? It'd probably be Bueno. Not that confident of a start, though, but I think he will get 1. Robertson or Van Dijk? Robertson. Start 1, bench 2, James Ward-Prowse, Nonto, Tarkovsky. Well, don't bench Tarkovsky, he has a double, so start him, and I probably would bench Nonto, actually. Oh, but you have to bench 2, so yeah, just start Tarkovsky, simple as. McNeil versus Iwobi? Iwobi. Nico Williams to Mikalenko, -4. Yep, I'd go for it. -4, Martin to Saka. Yes. Thiago Silva and Rashford 2, Trent and Iwobi, -8. Oh, dear. I actually wouldn't do it because you'd want Rashford back in for 26 and 27. Is it Robinson or Robertson? If it's Robertson, then yeah, he'd be my preference. Gakpo or Nunez? Nunez. Should I triple captain Salah this week? Yes, or Saka, in my opinion. I think they're the 2 best options this week, although Odegaard is quite close as well. I'd rather go for Tarkovsky. I think Nottingham Forest could score and even get a result at West Ham. Would you do Kane to Darwin and Castagna to Trent for a -8? Yes, reluctantly I would. I'm a really big fan of Kane and FPL, so yeah. Worth getting West Ham defender or Tarkovsky? Tarkovsky. I wouldn't do Kane to Darwin for a -4 unless it's to fund other moves. Solo puedo cambiar a Robertson por Trippier. En ese caso yo pondría a Darwin Núñez, si eso era la pregunta, y si mantengo a Trippier y no compro a Robertson. Mikalenko. All of these Everton defenders are fine, but Tarkovsky is my preference, as I've said all along. Coleman versus Tarkovsky, and why? Tarkovsky, for me, he's the biggest threat from set pieces, the biggest goal-scoring threat, and under Sean Dyche, they're making a real big plan of targeting him from set pieces. So, yeah, Tarkovsky for me. Ten Hag and Arteta has improved Man United and Arsenal. They have. Obviously, Ten Hag has done it in less time, but also you could say with more spending in that year. Look, they've both done a great job. Ten Hag's doing really well in all competitions. Arteta primarily in the Premier League, but yeah, look, it's kind of an interesting one, and I think both of them will, be right up there in the years to come as well. But let's wait and see. How long are they going to stay in those respective clubs? That'll be a big question. Honestly, Isaac, I've said it all along. I'm very conflicted. I might switch to Salah in the end. It's just because Saka's been more consistent if I end up going for him. But it's a close call. Captain Nunez, Odegaard, or Martinelli? Odegaard. Welcome, Joao. I've already used free hit. When should I use wildcard? I don't know your team, but I think Game Week 27 could be a good opportunity. Game Week 27, 29, around that period, even 33. Those are 3 good game weeks to wildcard in, potentially. Trent for me, Alan. Gakpo or Salah? Salah, definitely. I'm not even too sure if Gakpo gets, the 2 starts and also plays enough minutes to really make it worthwhile. Should I get a -8 for a goalkeeper instead of Ward? No. It's not worth taking massive hits for goalkeepers, even if they have a double. Gracias, Esteban. Como siempre, es un placer. Watkins o Darwin? A largo plazo, Watkins, pero para la jornada 25, sin dudas, Darwin Núñez para mí va obtener más puntos, pero Watkins es mejor para a largo plazo. Did you take a -4 or -8? -8, unfortunately. Oh, that -4 would be either Botman to Robertson or Mitro to Darwin. In that case, I would rather do Mitro to Darwin simply because I'd rather keep Botman in the long term. He doesn't blank in 28 either, and Mitrovic is a sell for me. Mitro to Watkins or Tony for a -4? Watkins, you know, Tony blanks this week. It makes no sense to get him in right now. But for Game Week 27, you'd want Tony as well. James or Williams? James. Nketiah or Nunez? Nketiah. Darwin or Trent? It'd be Trent. Maupay or Mitrovic? Maupay, simply because I don't expect Mitrovic to start anyway, but none of them, well, especially Maupay, he's not a good FPL option. Mitrovic will be once he's fully fit and assimilate into the starting 11 again. Thipaza puts a scenario up. Short and Tony out, Tarkowski and Darwin in. Lineup, Kepa, Tarkowski, Perod, Sinchenko, Salah captain, Saka, Mahrez, Grealish, Darwin, Haaland, Nketiah. That looks very solid, and those transfers are looking good. Not a big hit, I'm assuming, as well. So you're in a good position there. And obviously not a big fan of Perod and maybe Grealish FPL-wise, but the rest looks really good. Yeah, bye-bye. Should I transfer out Mitrovic for a -8 or play with 10 players? Depends who you're transferring out for. If it's for Watkins or Nunez, then yes. Other than that, it's only really Kane that I take a hit for, and Nketiah. So it's a tricky one. It depends which striker you're looking to bring in. Why not Salah for captain? I'll be honest, I might even switch now, to be fair. Triple captain, Saka or Salah? Good question. I've said Saka all week, but I think I'm going to make a late switch, I will be honest with you. So, yeah, you'll see my final answer in just about a minute, I'd say. Tarkowski, Saka and Darwin for a -8. Should I do KDB to Salah for a -12? Yeah, I'd say so. It's worth the hit. No hit Perod from Wildcard after the World Cup. No hit Perod from Wildcard after the World Cup. Fair enough. Yeah, that looks really good for Pazza. I will go my guts. Odegaard is my captain. That is the way it should be. Always back your gut. It can sometimes go wrong, but you'd rather that than follow the herd, and then in the end, it goes tits up. So yeah, that looks pretty good. So yeah, we are pretty much about to lock in 3 minutes. It is a difficult one this week, the captaincy. It's splitting everyone in the community, it seems, but I think I am going to go for a cheeky Salah captaincy in the end. I have to say, it is a very difficult one. Really difficult one. Yeah. I've said all week, Saka for me is my preference, but I think that Real Madrid game also convinced me of Salah, despite Liverpool obviously capitulating at the end. Let me know what you think in the live chat, yes or no, whatever you think. I think I'm going to confirm it. Triple captain this week will save it. I think I'd use it this week. I haven't decided on it, but I've got a good idea. I think Game Week 27 could be a good time for me to wildcard. Mahrez, just the thing though with Cunha, even if he starts both, do I expect him to haul necessarily? Not really, so probably Mahrez, actually. Botman or Shaw for long term? Still Luke Shaw for me. Who will get clean sheet, Chelsea or Nottingham Forest? Neither. But if I had to pick one, I think Nottingham Forest are a bit more likely. I think Kane will score this week. Yeah, Jazabi, we answered your question. Keep Saka captain. He's now the differentials majority going for Salah. Really? I think one reason why I was also thinking about going for Salah is because the effective ownership and all of that. I thought it would be a bit higher in Salah's case. I mean, look, it's going to be quite close between those two. They'll share it. Reconsidering Tony to Darwin, because if I don't free at 28 or 29, then I don't know what I'm saving it for. Yeah, that makes complete sense. I'd probably keep Tony anyway. White nailed for both. I think he'll start both, yeah. Best defender for 5.5 million and under. That's not Tarkowski or Arsenal. That's worth taking a -4 for. Only Kilman, and even then, I wouldn't be too sure about that Adil, to be fair. Yeah. Go for Salah, man. You took a hit for him. He deserves a chance. Yeah, maybe. I mean, look, everyone's going to give a different opinion, and I do appreciate all of you with your different opinions, but yeah, I think the main reason why I'm probably going to end up captaining Salah is to not jinx Saka. I know it sounds stupid, but there you go. Captaining Saka, hope he does well. Yeah, good luck, Sudindra. Even if I don't captain Saka, I hope it does pay off for you as well. Kane or Haaland? Haaland, still. Short Estupinian, long term. Estupinian for the next 5 or 6 game weeks. Doubles in 27 and 29, Esteban. So Estupinian, I think, is the better pick right now. Arsenal done better versus their opponents this year than Liverpool. Yeah, that is true. Liverpool did lose 3-0 to Wolves and drew to Palace at home. Arsenal lost to Everton. I mean, yeah, it's a tricky one, but they did beat Leicester quite comprehensively. Oh, Jesus Christ. Decisions. It is a difficult one this week. Enzo over Andreas? No, I'd rather have Andreas. We're literally 20 seconds away from the deadline. Will 32, 34, 37 be good times to free hit? Yeah, I think 34 could be a really good one, actually, looking at that marker. But then again, all of those weeks look pretty good. Good luck, Can. Hopefully that pays off as well. That triple captaincy on Saka. Yeah, I mean, Jesus Christ, is a tough one. But in the end, I've decided to stick with Saka. I mean, I'll be honest, I wanted to go for Salah, but it's literally 50-50. I'm going to stick with what I've felt all week and not change it last second, because recently when I've changed it last second, it hasn't gone right. Thank you, John. It's always a pleasure talking to you. Kilman or Bueno? It would be Kilman. Don't expect Bueno. Well, I'm not sure if Bueno starts both. Yeah, Karim, your team's fine. Obviously, the deadline has gone, but I mean, what plans for your team? It would have been something similar to what I did, I think, in terms of maybe downgrading Kane, maybe to Watkins, and then upgrading Mahrez to Salah. But really, your team's fine. It's in a good position for future weeks as well, which is the main thing. Good luck, Elliot. Good luck to everyone else watching. Yeah, that Saka Salah captaincy thing was a tough one today. Yeah, locked in, Sudindra. Good luck to you and everyone else watching. If I play blank players, will all the players who play on the bench get an auto sub? Yes. Yes, Amit. Yeah, that's the way it works. So yeah, no issues with that whatsoever. I'll be honest, Twisted, I was very, like, I literally didn't confirm it. That's the thing. So I was literally going to scroll down and then confirm it, but I was in two minds, really. Just thought Palace no Zaha. Yeah. I mean, to be fair with Palace, they've been shocking all season. Salah's been great. Honestly, I think it could be a huge difference. You know, Saka and Salah are both great options for the captaincy this week, but I think there could be a huge swing. And I'm kind of fearing the worst there, no matter which player I went for. Gracias, Esteban. Mucha suerte para vos también. Thanks a lot, Marco, too. Good luck all. Hopefully another kind week in FPL on Arsenal terms. Hopefully, but yeah, football can be full of surprises. Let's put it that way. Yeah, Karim, I mentioned your team earlier. I think it's good. If I were to make some moves, I think it would include the likes of Mahrez and Kane. But I don't think it's necessary, to be fair. Your team's looking pretty good. A rating out of 10, maybe a 7. Yeah, I'd say a 7. Looks pretty good. I ended up not taking a -4, as I also don't see too much value in any 5.5 million or under defender. Yeah, I completely agree with you. In my team selection video, I talked about the possibility of getting Kilman and Tarkowski alongside Salah, but it meant getting rid of Trippier and Shaw. And I'm just not that big of a fan of taking that hit and getting rid of Trippier, who I want back in 27, and getting in Kilman. So I do understand that. Couldn't use my triple captain just 3 seconds late. Yeah, that's why I always recommend to people to kind of settle on your plans as early as possible. And definitely, I don't recommend making last-minute changes, which I have done quite recently in videos and streams, but overthinking is just not recommended, let's say. Was thinking whether to bench doublers and start blankers for chaos, but didn't. Yeah, yeah. I mean, why not? Why not make things a bit more interesting? I don't think so necessarily, Zio. I'm not confident of it. It's kind of a tricky one. I think he starts one. Not sure about both. Thank you, Karim. Good luck to you as well. And thank you, Ripadu. What do you think? I'm new to this. Well, I don't like. Wait, so you got Reece James. I mean, the thing is with Reece James, he's always got that potential in FPL, but kind of rarely delivers, let's say. I'm guessing you're a Chelsea fan with that triple up in Chelsea. I don't like Enzo in FPL-wise. I think Felix could become a good option at one point. Leno's a nice option. Saliba, Salah, Saka, good captaincy options there. Your team's looking pretty solid for this week, but long term, I'd definitely get off that Chelsea triple up. I just don't think it's worth it, even if they don't blank in 28, so they have a fixture there, whilst other teams like Man United could obviously not have a fixture. I still would recommend getting rid of Enzo, and I think Felix to Tony or Watkins in the weeks to come looks like a really good move for you. But right now, looks fine. Only problem is that I'm playing only 10 players with Patson being one of them. Yeah, and that could easily be 9 in essence. Captaincy going to be massive differential for rank gains this week. Can't wait for Game Week 25. Yes, yes, I think so too. I think I made a mistake. Palace have good draws recently. Liverpool terrible away. All rest on Wolves. I think Salah gut will not work. They are porous. Arsenal solid. Well, to be fair with Arsenal, in recent weeks they have been porous themselves and vulnerable. But Saka's continued to play well, and in the Aston Villa game, especially in the first half, he dragged Arsenal through those difficult moments. I don't think there's a right or wrong. I think Salah could easily outscore Saka, I'll be honest. I've just gone for Saka for the consistency and because I've maintained that belief all week. So I don't want to just change my mind last second, but I was genuinely considering switching to Salah, and it goes to show his last 3 performances have been impressive. No, because I didn't. When I put the armband on Salah, I didn't save the change, so Saka's my captain, yeah. Unless I missed something. When should I use it then? On who, says Zia? Let me get your question. When should I use it then? Are you talking about the free hit or wildcard? I'm not sure what you're on about there. Thank you, Jay. I appreciate it. Harry says, Odegaard captain, 1 goal involvement and usually gets guaranteed bonus. That is true, especially if he scores a goal. That would be a huge boost for him. It's a bit like Bruno Fernandes in a way. I gave captain to Salah just because of his pass. Don't like it already. Then again, though, Saka, as much as he's been a great player for the last 3 years, in terms of FPL, he's only been a real consistent option in this season. And you could argue that last year as well. But yeah, Salah's always got kind of credit in the bank. Thank you, Chelsea Blues. Good luck to you as well. I'm not, but I'm a Benfica fan. Oh, I just want Felix and Darwin to smash it. That's fair enough. And that maybe explains Enzo as well. Yeah, good luck to you, Ripadu. And good luck in the Champions League as well. It would be nice to see someone different, doing well and going far, like Benfica, Napoli. It seems Nketiah's a better option long-term than Tony. I would say so, but Jesus is actually making good progress. I think he could come back in the team very soon as well. Please do some chip strategy video later this week. That is possible. I'll see what I can do. Obviously, I've got a few ideas that I've talked about in this stream, but I could make a video on it. Thank you, Eric. I appreciate it. Do you think triple captain Odegaard this game will be a mistake? If he gets 1 goal, I mean, that could easily pay off because his bonus points potential is far higher than Saka's. It's a good option, I think. And even if it doesn't pay off, it's still a decent choice. Would I have done it myself? Probably not, but he is a good choice. Would you go for Maddison? Yes, but he is an injured out and he might not start against Arsenal. And there are so many double gameweek players as well in the next few weeks. I think Leicester could blank in 28 as well. And that's why I'm a bit conflicted about Maddison right now. Apart from Haaland, I think and hope we should benefit from all our players' points for the first time in a while. I mean, yeah, but I will go down in rank, outside the top 100k with the -8 hit I've taken. So I need some big returns from my double gameweek players. Wildcard Gaming 29 thoughts. I have considered it. It is a possibility for me, for sure. You do not have to answer, but do you prefer Spanish or English? I mean, I'm more fluent in English, or at least I'm much more... It comes more natural to me. I've studied it all, basically all the time. With Spanish, maybe I have to think a bit more about what I'm going to say. Also got a bit of an accent when I speak, so I do like Spanish, of course. It's one of my favorite languages. Same with Italian, you could say, but English is probably my favorite just because, I'm probably better at it. That's probably the reason why. Thank you, Lipuk. Odegaard, my captain, says Ahmed. Good luck, mate. And same with Harry as well. Good luck. I really hope that Odegaard pays off. We're winning the Champions League, no doubt. Wow, that's a big call. Thank you, I think it's Ask Dravidan previously. I think I recognize the DP. Thank you, mate. Thank you, Demantis, as well. I did Mitro to Nonto, Morris to Salah, and Short to Tarkovsky. What are your thoughts? My thoughts are that they're a good set of transfers. Nonto is obviously a budget option, could do decent in this week as well. And you're getting in Salah and Tarkovsky, who are good double gimmick options, especially Salah. So it will pay off, I think, for sure. What do you think, says Nick? What do I think? I think you've got arguably the best front three this week. You've got a solid midfield. Obviously, you don't have Saka or Salah, which would be the big concern, but you've got some good double gimmick players there like Gakpo and Odegaard. I like the captaincy on Odegaard there from the options you have available. And you've got Trent and Robertson. I'd really like that, actually. The only concern, like I said, is Saka and Salah. Did the deadline pass? Yes, it passed 6 minutes ago. ¿Qué opinas de Wildcard 27, Free Hit 28 y Bench Boost 29? Y yo estoy pensando en algo parecido. Es difícil porque hay tantas cosas que puedo hacer con mi equipo, pero sí, creo que es una buena opción para muchos, incluyendo a vos y a mí también. I really like hearing the switch in the stream. Yeah, obviously, I don't know. Some people are like, what language are you speaking? Speak English, especially in UCL Fantasy when there's like so many people, the live chat is mad, and people are literally like saying, just speak English, mate. No, I don't speak German, unfortunately. Just a few words, mainly swear words. So I'm not going to say them now. I feel like everyone bar Haaland will be under 100% effective ownership. Maybe Salah, Saka both being 95, 100. I think one of them will be over 100, maybe even both, but not by much. I could be wrong about that, though. I'm not necessarily the best in terms of calculating effective ownership. Thank you, K-Mag. I think that looks pretty solid. Looks like we're going to have one of the most competitive seasons in F1. Is it? I didn't see the F1 testing today, but that would be good. Why are you speaking Spanish? Good joke there. What's the right time for triple captain later on? This is the thing, though, because there are going to be doubles on 29, 34, and 37, but you might use the free hit, bench boost, or wildcard in one of those weeks. So I think one of those would be fine, but if not, a smaller double, maybe Gameweek 32, if I'm not mistaken. Not 32, sorry, that's a blank, sorry. Maybe 33 could be a double as well, one of these smaller ones. We're not going to have too many of these smaller doubles, though, in my opinion. I reckon Saka will haul, Salah will blanking one. Let's wait and see. Honestly, it's difficult. I hope Saka hauls, but yeah, Salah's definitely capable with these fixtures. I'm not set on it because I could also free in 29. Like I said, I might wildcard in 27, free hit in either 28 or 29. And if I free in 28, then I'll bench boost in 29 with that. Wildcard in 27 will set up pretty well. I spoke in Spanish because Esteban, for example, was asking a question in Spanish, and just the best way for him to understand it, I guess. And, you know, especially in UCL Fantasy, there are some viewers who, you know, speak Spanish. They're Spanish speakers, and they would rather consume the content in Spanish. So, yeah, that's the reason why. Best of luck to you as well, Zia. How do you think I'll get Tony for Gameweek 27 without wildcarding? I have 0.3 million in the bank with Kane, Nonto, and Haaland. Well, the easiest way to do it would be downgrading Kane, but I think what you could do is roll the transfer in 26 K-Mag, in 27 do Nonto up to Tony, and then you'd have to sacrifice someone in another position if you're really up to it. So one thing you could do is Nonto up to Tony and then Watkins in for Kane. That's one example. Gakpo, I think he's the fourth best midfielder this week, but he's not someone I'd like to have long term, and I'm not too sure about his minutes in Game 25. I think we missed a triple captaincy on Rashford a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, I used it on him. I was very happy to do so. My best triple captaincy by far. But yeah, it is. Look, there's still opportunities, and I would not be surprised if Salah or Saka actually matched what Rashford did in Game 22. I can't update my FPL in 5 minutes, and it says game is updating. Yeah, Shadow, the deadline has passed. So once the deadline passes, you can't make changes. You have to wait until the site refreshes, and then you can make changes for next week. But for Game 25, it's all done. Thank you, Marco. Maybe triple captain Mitoma Tony in 27. I'll be honest, I'm not too convinced about that. Obviously, Mitoma a few weeks ago was looking unstoppable. A bit of a drop-off recently, but yeah, they are the best captaincy options in that week. I'm not too sure if I'd want to triple captain them, though, but you might be right. Yeah, no worries, G-Wiz. No worries. It's not like I'm trying to speak Spanish to throw people off or flex, you know. I know some people might think that. Thank you, Esteban. Aprecio mucho que siempre contestas en español. Trato de hacer lo mejor que puedo, pero mi español no es tan bueno como mi inglés. Pero gracias, Esteban. It won't let me transfer, and deadline is in 4 minutes. No, the deadline is at 6:30. So the first game is at 8 p.m. UK time. And the FPL this season have made it 1 hour 30 minutes before the game starts, should I say. So yeah, 6:30. So it was 12 minutes ago now. Haaland might have a double game later on in the season. Yeah, that is possible. But then again, if City are far into the FA Cup and Champions League, and depending on what happens in the Premier League, you might have some doubts about his minutes. But yeah, that is a good point. Am I the only one who didn't go for Darwin? Honestly, look, I'm not a big fan of Darwin. I only did it to fund the likes of Salah in my team, to be quite frank. I went for Saka captain, but I was really close to switching it to Salah. And it shows a lot, really. Prediction for Fulham versus Wolves? Good question. I think that 2-0 is a good prediction. I think 1-0. 1-0 Fulham. I think it might be a low-scoring game, but 2-0 is a good prediction too. I think Wolves won't keep the clean sheet, and I think Fulham will get the victory. They've been in great form, and I'm kind of a bit worried. Arsenal go in there very soon. I could see them dropping points. I hope they don't. I'm glad I used it triple captain already. Same here. And some people using the bench boost in Gameweek 1 already. They would feel the same way about that as well. Saw on Twitter many people buying McNeil, but I bought Iwobi. I think Iwobi's more consistent over the course of the season. He's the better option, but McNeil obviously worked with Sean Dyche at Burnley already, and he's going to be making a lot of crosses in the box for the likes of Tarkowski in set pieces and even an open play at times. So I can understand, but it's just they're poor options in my opinion. Am I the only one to triple captain Saka? I think there's a fair few, not many, but a few. -8 to bring in Salah, Darwin and Tarkowski for Kane, Mahrez and Shaw. I can understand why you think it's a mistake. I've done the same thing as you, actually. Look, I think the hit will pay off this week, but you'd also want Kane back in very soon. I reckon Wolves could win that one. Yeah, they can. But the thing is with Mitrovic, he hasn't been at it recently. He's also been missing games with injury, and Fulham have still been doing well. So yeah, Wolves have been decent. You know, I think it's kind of a tough game to call. Could be a draw. Anything could happen. But I would favour Fulham based on current form. but that could easily change, of course, as we all know, in Premier League and also in football in general. Thank you to everyone for watching. We've been streaming for over 2 hours now. We've got the lineups in around 50 minutes time, 60 minutes time, but it's been a pleasure talking to all of you. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, smash the like button, hit the notification bell so you never miss a single upload or stream, and check the links in the description below for the Patreon, the Discord server, and all of that stuff like the FPL League, channel memberships, all of that. And there's also a link to sign up to Sorare using my link. It's an innovative fantasy game. If you want to check that out, you can get weekly prizes. You don't need to spend money to start off. That's the key thing. And it's a really good fantasy game, very different to UCL Fantasy and FPL. So be sure to check that out as well. And let's see if I can put a link here in the description and also in the live chat. So be sure to check that out as well. Good luck to you, Marco. I do support Arsenal, Fivish. Thank you, Parky. Yeah, Wei-Sang, I'll be honest, maybe my brain's bugging out a little bit. I'm not sure what you're on about there. Maybe I'm being dumb. Thank you, G-Wiz. Finally subscribed after being a lurker for so long. I appreciate it, mate. And you're a West Ham fan, I see. Good luck to you and staying up. Hopefully you do. And it's good to see you joining the crew as well. And thank you to everyone who subscribed, all the super chats today, the channel members, the patrons, and everyone who subscribed to the channel. We're trying to get to 19,000 subscribers and then pushing beyond. We reached 18,000 last week. I appreciate everyone who has helped the channel. Thank you, Surendra. Best of luck to you as well and everyone else watching. I'll see you very soon. There could be a reaction stream on Sunday. I'll let you guys know. Let's wait and see, Twisted Parky. I'll be honest, I have been very frustrated at Brighton in the past because they just tend to get the better of Arsenal, but they are kind of a decent second team to support. Yeah, Arsenal Sporting. It's a decent draw, but Arsenal can't underestimate anyone. And to be honest with Arsenal, I think they'll play kind of a weakened team in Europa League. We'll talk more about this on Sunday if you wish, but yeah, I think there will be a bit of rotation. I will not be surprised if Arsenal went out in the round of 16. Arsenal are pretty poor in Europe. I hope it changes this year. You know, I'm not a big fan of Europa League, but I'd rather win it than not. Yeah, Argentinian link, exactly that. Hopefully McAllister stays for long. If he doesn't go Arsenal, I hope he stays at Brighton, but it's looking very unlikely at the moment. Let's wait and see what happens. I'll see you on Sunday, potentially, if you want to see another stream, a reaction, and there's going to be more content out of Gameweek 26 and beyond, UCL Fantasy content for Matchday 8. So thank you very much to everyone. Take care, enjoy the football, and I'll see you next time.